And I opened up the restream chat because I figured if we're having trouble seeing the chat, then we can still default to that.
No, that's cool.
So it means I just have two different chats.
That's
This one's, the restream one's a little bit better because I actually can make the text of it larger.
That's nice.
right.
Yeah.
And I can move it around where the fuck I need.
right.
So, alright, let's test the audio.
All right, cool.
Are we live? We're doing it. Test.
Yes.
Test.
All right. Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the show. This is my audio test. 1, 2, 3.
I have opinions on things.
No, you're not allowed to.
Well, my opinion
I built
is
a wall around your opinions. You're not allowed to have them.
my opinions are
racist.
Mexican. They dig tunnels.
Racist.
Yes, there's a whole horde of them coming.
Look,
I'm gonna have
my
to-
people
I'm gonna
made a
increase border
weed
security
catapult,
on my-
and there wasn't even a wall yet.
My opinion wall. Okay.
Check that out.
Yeah, then delete it forever.
It's on Twitch now. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
on-
Yeah,
on
no one
Twitch.
cares what's on Twitch. Someone's
Yeah.
boobs are out right now on Twitch. All the people are watching that.
Probably. It's probably Tony.
Yeah.
How am I watching that? I'm literally.
No, I think
sitting
that your
here.
boobs are out.
Yeah, it's like
I'm wearing clothing.
you're
How the fuck-
restreaming it from your room.
Yeah. Tony's secret life is a cam girl.
Oh man. Then someone takes over his identity, and there's this weird existential shit going on. I can't wait to see that movie. I'm really excited for it.
Alright, good.
Yeah, it's got won a bunch of awards and shit. Apparently.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like uber creepy.
Yeah.
What did?
It's this Netflix movie coming out pretty soon, if it's not already out, called Cam. It's about a cam girl,
Oh,
and
yeah, I
like
heard
she's
something kind of about that.
hyper popular, but like someone just takes over her channel, and she doesn't know how they're doing it, and no one can explain to her how they're doing it because she's like, "I'm me. You're looking at me. You're talking to me. How am I live streaming right now?"
Yeah. It's like supposed to be like super Black Mirror-esque.
Yeah, very Black
Yeah,
Mirror.
but yeah, it won like 4
Yeah,
awards.
yeah. What? This is.
So for the epilogue, I have like just some basic talking points over
Mhm.
things in his life.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's really going to be kind of just a.
I have the ending that we're doing as well.
Oh yeah.
At the end, when we're going to say goodnight, good game, I think it'd be better if like all three of us like said Excelsior instead.
I dig that.
That's
Well, that's what Greetings Adventures is from, right? That's a Stan Lee thing. Like every time he'd introduce himself, he would say
No, it
He had
was
something
it's
else
something
to say.
similar.
it's
but-
something very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. True Believers.
Yeah. it's
True Believers. There
Yeah.
it is.
That's Stanley was True Believers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I've got talking points and
Mm-hmm.
some stuff to cover ground wise, but for the most part, it's casual conversation. This is probably one of the first times I'm just gonna like blatantly say like, "Hey, Twitch chat, if you have any thoughts, memories, things,
Yeah.
let us know, and we'll."
I mean, it's like
we'll read them on air, and
what Stan Lee meant to us, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the point.
yeah, pretty much.
We're gonna cry, and they're gonna cry. And
You know,
we're all
I-
gonna
Yeah.
cry.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat myself at the end of the show, but like I normally am not a celebrity death kind of guy.
Yeah,
But
no.
like the more and more I was reading the news about this, I was like, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah, no, like on the drive home, I started getting like really upset about
Yeah.
it. I was like, "Fuck!" I can actually stop and think about it for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, and that's
Like I was already in a bad mood, and it was like, "This is fucking making me
And
more
then he's gonna
emotional."
have a cameo in Avengers 4, and you're
and
just gonna
and
multiple other things.
And Captain Marvel, they're both
Yeah.
done filming.
Yeah.
So
They said they filmed way more than that. Like they have random scenes he can just be in now.
yeah.
well, that makes sense. I
Like,
don't
they
know.
filmed a bunch of shit whenever he started getting sick.
If you know Stan Lee, you might. He might be super down with appearing posthumously in movies and would
Yeah.
have recorded a bunch of stuff. He'd be like, "Yeah, keep throwing me in there; it'll fuck with him."
I mean,
Yeah.
we've killed characters in the movie. They keep showing up. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
It's what we do at Marvel. It's
Which I think is the point we should bring up in the epilogue.
It's like in his will somewhere, like just CG me in there
Right.
at some point,
if Carrie Fisher gets CG, so do I.
right?
That's the end of it, though. Like they said, they're like, we're not doing CGI Carrie Fisher. Like we're not bringing
Yeah.
her back. Like Princess Leia's
yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
We are not doing that.
Yeah, no, they didn't want to have her running around like on her own without an
Yeah.
actor there. I mean, they did it to Tarkin, and it was awesome. But I don't know.
Well, even when they like
Was
aged
it-
her down for like
Oh yeah. When they aged her down for that one shot, that was super. Like that.
that was Uncanny Valley level
Yeah,
CGI.
considering
kinda hurt.
that like the Grand Moff Tarkin looked almost indistinguishable from
Yeah,
the
he was like,
actual
oh god,
person.
that's him.
Seeing young Leia was like, "Ooh, ghost."
Yeah, that is true.
Ugh.
All right,
Looks like you got a couple followers or some shit happened at some
Sweet.
point.
nice.
I don't know what happened. I
People
don't know.
like us.
I was just streaming a couple times this weekend.
Yeah, which has confused the shit out of like my friends on Xbox because it's this early nerd account goes through my Xbox account.
Oh, that's funny.
So it's like I'm streaming playing this, but I'm also online playing something else. So like, how the hell are you doing two different things? I'm like, the account's linked so we can have the thing because no one's friends with this early nerd account that I made for Xbox.
Yeah.
And that's the one I'm gonna set to auto log in to when I bring the Xbox out here. All right, you ready to
Let's do it.
start this fucking pile of shit we call a show?
Today we celebrate the life of the legendary Stan Lee. Adventures, join us for a very special episode.
I kind of want you to redo that one, but say True Believers instead.
Okay.
Because that's the Stanley
Okay,
thing.
we can do it. Today we celebrate the life of the legendary Stan Lee. True Believers, join us for a very special episode.
Nice.
Greetings, true believers, and welcome to the show. We are the Surly Nerd, your one-stop shop for geek news that might have flown under your radar over the last week. I'm your host, James, and sitting across from me is the producer of this fine show, Tony.
Hi.
And with us, as always, is our third chair host, Hector.
Howdy.
And if you're new to our show, welcome. This week we'll be talking about the passing of Stan Lee, but before that we have a recap of all the nerd news that's fit to rant about for your ears. Don't forget that you can keep connected with us through thesurlynerd.com. You can follow us on all social media platforms and even donate to the show. Every penny donated goes right back into the show that we make for you every week. All right, with all that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, adventurers of all ages, it's time for The Prelude.
That's like the most somber beginning we've had
I know, right?
like ever.
Mm.
It's all
I'm
like,
going to try and pick it up a little
we're
bit.
all
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and none of us are happy.
Well, I mean, yeah. At what point do you like? Well, we can keep cracking jokes, and it's like I don't feel with it. It feels disrespectful. I don't know.
Well,
and
we
it's
get-
not.
Well, we're going to
Yeah.
like get through the
Yeah.
news and stuff, and
we'll
be
do all
fun.
this stuff
Yeah.
normally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prelude.
All right, this is The Prelude. This is what we've been doing with ourselves this week, what we've been watching, what we've been playing, what's been occupying our free time. Hector, why don't we go and start with you this week?
Oh, let's see. I've been playing both Battlefield and Call of Duty just to
Wow.
confuse my brain as much
You're
as
just
possible.
Trying to be,
Yeah.
hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Did
just-
like 10 years ago Hector come out of the closet somewhere?
Yeah,
and-
so I was playing Black Ops because it's the Treyarch version, and
Right.
I play all the Treyarch ones. And then EA decided to give me the full deluxe edition of Battlefield 5 for $15 because of EA Origin Premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And I say for $15 because I'm going to have it for a month, maybe two, then cancel it. So the game might have cost me $30 by the time I'm fucking sick of it and will never pick it up again.
So the Origin program, is there kind of month to month?
Yeah,
And
it's, you can pay for a year too if
Right.
you want. It's $100 for the whole year or $15 a month.
Right, and we will be talking about that a bit later, so you keep that in the back of your
Right
head.
on. Finished Sabrina. That was great.
You say you finished Sabrina, but another episode's coming out in December.
We're
Yeah,
talking about
we're
that
gonna
in the
talk
news.
about that too. Let's see, what else did I do? Some other Netflix stuff I can't remember just quite now.
Not
I'm
that
sure.
important. What about
No.
you, Tony? What did you do this week?
I honestly, I don't really remember a lot of what I've done. I did go
It's
watch.
like the news hit him today, and he just shut down.
Yeah,
I did go walking around downtown to go see this light exhibit thing. It's yearly. It's for like a week.
Very
And
exciting.
It's
Was it
it's
the one
fun.
over by Easy Tiger or the one in the park?
It's no longer by Easy Tiger.
Oh, with the water.
They moved it further north.
Lame.
So then they had to because everything smelled like homeless piss.
Yeah,
Like,
well-
so they moved it further north so it doesn't smell like homeless piss.
Like
But
homeless piss and expertly baked bread.
yes, it's a very winning combination of things. For people who don't live in Austin, Easy Tiger is a bakery / beer place.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
No, so I did that. It was really cool. The first part of the exhibit was basically like 100 and something of these orange tints that were lit up and then like, over the water. And I was just thinking, like immediately when I walked up to him, I was like, wow, there's a shitload of homeless people that'd really rather have those tents than having them sitting up in the sky doing fucking nothing with a lamp inside of them.
Yep.
It's just kind of, but it was really pretty. Like overall, it was a really fun experience to walk around, like in the rain. Like it was kind of still like a little bit rainy and misty, and walking down there, and the creek was all flowing and stuff. And
Wow.
that was
Sounds
kind of
nice.
cool. It was
Outdoorsy
nice.
stuff.
Yeah.
I plan on doing more outdoorsy stuff, but
There you
it's
go.
cold now and I don't like
Oh,
it.
it's cold as balls.
Tony hibernates once it starts getting cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like the winter is not a good time to be alive.
It's true. And so for me, if you haven't been paying attention to twitch.tv/TheSurlyNerd, you may have missed this, but we received a very nice donation from one of our listeners, Brooklyn, who gave us a copy of Soul Calibur 6 over the last week. And so on Saturday, I booted that bad boy up, and I don't know, I started sometime around 11:30. I couldn't tell you when I stopped. It all just blurred together at some point. But it's about 4 or 5 hours into practicing, I finally decided to jump online, try my hand at Soul Calibur. And one of the things I want to say about it, aside from just the online experience that I was having, is that it's hard to recommend fighting games to people that don't want to play them online. Like they just want the single player experience.
Right.
But you're asking somebody to dish out $60 for
You know,
fraction
in
of
this,
the
most
in this day and
mediocre
age,
campaign.
if I'm
Yeah.
paying $60 for a fighting game,
Right.
it better be the fighting game that sucks my dick, because
Right.
that single player experience is not going to be worth it
Right.
at
And-
this day and age.
And the
Yeah.
reason I bring that up is that Soul Calibur does what fighting games have not done probably since Injustice, and that's having a very robust and enjoyable single player campaign.
Oh, cool.
In fact, it has 2 technical single player campaigns, because one of them is a create a fighter one, where you create a fighter and there's a separate story.
Oh, I've been seeing memes about this.
And you can just go around the world and fight things, and as you do it, you get gold to buy new equipment, to do new things, to upgrade your character. And it's a kind of pseudo RPG. They did something similar back in Soul Calibur 3. I don't know if they've done it since then.
Okay.
But
the
it's
Mortal Kombat games had something
but it-
like this a long
yeah,
time
but
ago.
it's
It was one of the
its
shitty Mortal Kombat games, though.
but it's also a way to learn new skills in the game, because you aren't just going and fighting random battles. You'll go into a battle and it'll say like the victory condition for this is use this type of special move on this person. And so it requires you at a certain threshold to start learning what those combos are.
I like it.
And because Soul Calibur has a very simple button scheme, right? It's only like 3 buttons technically.
Yeah.
Then that kind of opens it up to have more complicated things it can do in terms of its specials and all that stuff, but with minimal button inputs. So I found myself doing this single player journey, and to basically knock the rust off, because I haven't really played Soul Calibur since like 4.
Right.
And so doing the single player journey, it'll be like, hey, you got to throw this guy 3 times to win, or you need to use this special to win.
Okay.
And so I found myself going to the menu, looking things up. There's a tutorial dojo that is actually part of that campaign.
Oh, cool.
Like as you learn more skills with that guy, it'll unlock side stories for you to go do. So that's robust. And then there's the second single player campaign, which is the story mode. And this is the actual story of Soul Calibur. So Soul Calibur 6 isn't a new story in the series.
Okay.
It is a retelling of the original Soul Calibur game through other people's eyes.
Interesting. Is it like the one campaign per character? Like they all have
Yeah,
their own
yeah.
little story?
So
or is it like one
I
flowing story where it
actually
changes
haven't
character?
gone into it yet, so I couldn't confirm that.
Okay.
I've been so busy with the create your own character single
Mm-hmm.
player mode that like it takes up all my time. And when I'm not doing that, I'm online playing.
How stupid does your character look?
He looks pretty normal.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Tony walked in.
Okay, so
Because I've seen a lot of
His
hilariously stupid characters
James's
online.
character looks like James, but with long green hair.
Hot.
No,
I've
it
been to
actually
Yeah.
it's weird. Like the green hair in this game is not a good.
It's not a good color of green.
It's take brown hair and then put
Well,
a green
to be
Photoshop
fair-
filter on
okay,
top
to
of
be
it. It
fair,
looks horrible.
you get to
Okay.
choose the color of your hair.
Oh, yeah.
And almost all of my creative characters and all the games that I play have dark green hair. Like ever since Phantasy
That's
Star
fair.
Online, I've just always had dark green hair in my characters. So I was just like, yep. If you look at my Monster Hunter character, dark green hair.
Yeah.
He has a beard, dark green hair, long hair. Like, that's
Right
what he
on.
looks like. And so like originally I
Are
didn't
we
even
gonna talk about Monster Hunter?
not yet.
We can.
Can we just in general, like right now, talk about Monster?
It's not in
the
the
movie,
news.
like because the
We should
pictures
not
that
talk
are
about the
released.
movie at all. We should pretend it doesn't exist, like the
I
rest of
think
the world
I
is
think
going
Hector
to.
might have a good idea because that movie's gonna make no money.
It's going to be so bad. It's so
It's actively losing money right now.
So long story short, so I can kind of wrap this whole thing up. Soul Calibur 6 has an amazing single player storyline that even if you don't want to go online, you can find enjoyment and challenge and learn more about the Soul Calibur universe and how to play all the different characters without ever having to step foot into an online arena. So
Okay.
I
like
think
it.
that's cost of entry alone for me. And the online, it's been a little bit spotty at times, but that's just online fighting games
Yeah,
in
it's
general.
hard.
Yeah. So again, special thank you to Brooklyn, man. I'm going to be getting on as often as I can. I'm going to try and make a thing out of Soul Calibur Saturdays if possible, but we'll see in the future. All right, that's everything we have for the Prelude this week. We're going to take a small break. When we come back, we'll be going into level 1 comic book news.
Oh, I was going to suggest everybody pick up Destiny 2 for free on PC.
I already have it.
No, I was going to tell everybody to do that because they only have a couple days left.
Yeah. Well, tell them, at the top of video games.
Yeah, top of
Yeah.
video game, do it.
Yeah, because that's one thing is like literally it's
free.
It's free.
Yeah.
Like,
you can play it if you want.
Free 99.
It's free.
Yeah.
Like, and then if you enjoy it, they only
There's
cost you
more.
$40 to get the rest of it.
Yeah.
So, until like the beginning of December, which another thing's going to come out. That's season pass shit.
Yep.
Oh, I need to switch some shit, you fucking bitch.
Switch the shit.
If somebody comes into chat, I'll fucking move that back up.
That's fine.
But currently, no one's watching us, so. Level 1 comic book news.
Hey, adventurers, welcome back to the show. We are in level 1 comic book news, or as I would like to call it, the happy comic book news for the week.
Yay.
We're going to need a little bit of that as a buffer as we get later into the episode.
I'm going to break out the whiskey yet.
So we're going to start off with something we talked about a few months back, and that is that IDW was going to be publishing some Marvel titles, and we didn't know what they were. We just knew that
Knew it was weird.
we knew it was weird, but they were going to be doing it. I mean, Archie published some Marvel titles recently, so why the fuck not?
Why
Yeah.
the fuck not?
So we found out what the first comic coming out of IDW/Marvel is, and it's actually kind of cool. So the title of the comic is Marvel Action: Spider-Man. So it's got a subtitle of Spider. So Marvel Action,
All right.
subtitle Spider-Man.
I like anything as a colon.
Yes, I know you do.
Whoa.
You're a huge fan. So this story is going to be kind of an Elseworld story.
Okay.
It's going to involve 3 Spidermans. It's going to be Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy, and Miles Morales. And it's going to be all of them kind of coming to terms with power and responsibility, and it's them at a very young age. And it's the reason I specify that is because this is actually a title that's aimed for kids and is
Oh.
meant to be an entry point to comic books for
It's a-
kids.
it's a younger
Okay,
reader's
okay,
title.
Yeah.
okay. So they're young. It's
Yes,
not like
this
this
is-
when it's like so we have Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales and Peter Parker, and I'm just like, was it filmed by Gaspar? No. Are they all going to bang? What's
It is
going
not
on?
that kind of story.
Okay.
That's the Dark Horse version or the Vertigo version, not the IDW version.
All right.
So yes, this is for kids to give them an entry point
Yeah,
into
that totally makes
comics.
sense.
Yeah,
Like,
that sounds awesome.
Like the guy did the Archie Comics digest. They're in stores that are buy them as you find them because they're not making any more. They're done.
Yeah.
This is I mean, always get kids to read comics. Getting kids to read is always a good thing.
And they're going to be talking a lot about social issues that kids care about. It's going to go into things like
How they're going to get shot at school.
Like, it's going to go into bullying. They actually already covered the school shooting thing in a Miles Morales comic.
Yeah, but maybe they should do it also in the other kids' ones, just like on a constant reminder that you're
Hey,
going to
kids,
die at school.
Remember to duck.
Yeah, so there's a lot of the stuff they're going to be covering in this where they really do want to tell kids like, hey, it's okay to open up yourself to new people
Yeah.
and new experiences and put yourself out there. Even if the world's going to kind of beat you up a little bit, pick yourself up, look at how the Spider-Men are doing it, and go with it. And it's really cool that IDW is teaming with Marvel for this and trying to create a comic that's not only an entry-level comic book for kids, but also something that has a good message behind it as well.
Yeah.
So I am all about that life. We're going to move on from that over to DC real quick. So DC obviously has their Black Label that we've been talking about for months now.
That way.
And so Batwang is part of the Black Label. And so this is their adult line. This is their edgy and sophisticated line, as they like to call it. This is where Batman Damned comes from. Retroactively, Batman White Knight,
That's
which I
right.
I forgot to mention that in my prelude, is that I finished Batman White Knight.
Yeah, you handed it to me and said you have to read this.
Yeah, you
And I
were
went,
going crazy
"Okay."
about it when you told me.
Fuck my ass, Batman White Knight is good.
All right,
Like,
I guess I got to go home and read it now.
Like it is just, it is one of the hands down best Batman stories I have read in so long.
Awesome.
And so obviously they took Batman White Knight, they put under the DC Black Label imprint now. And so this week what DC announced is that while there's a ton of new titles coming out for this DC imprint, they're also going to be retroactively adding old things to it because they're going to be re-releasing a lot of titles.
Okay.
The interesting part about this for me, Hector, specifically, I'm looking at you for this one.
I'm here.
Is that most of these titles that I'm about to tell you are things that I have told you that you need to put on your checklist for comics to buy.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
So they're
Basically, all you do is subscribe to DC Black Label, and,
Yeah, and just,
you're
like,
fine.
Yeah.
So I can't go over all of them because we would be sitting here all day, but I'll give you some of them. Watchmen is going to be on there. Kingdom Come is going to be put in under Black Label. All of Frank Miller's Batman Year One, Dark Knight Returns, all that stuff.
Dang.
Alan Moore's Killing Joke, The Long Halloween is going to be on there. Anything you could think as a darker Batman story, like Arkham Asylum, that's going to be on
Okay,
there.
so a lot of these things actually were released, or at least printed in trade, like under the Vertigo title,
Right.
Because that was this is for adults,
Right.
So this is them taking away that from Vertigo, putting it in hey, it's actually part of DC continuity,
Right.
So
So-
it should be here and not
Yeah.
in Vertigo,
Right,
It's about fucking
so Vertigo
Batman
can be
after all.
Vertigo, and DC Black Label can be like the dark version of
Yeah,
Batman
they're
Superman.
basically Vertigo
even
and
like,
Black Label are cousins,
Yeah.
but they're not part of the same direct family.
Right. Like they can still kiss and stuff. That's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like third,
But not a lot.
Yeah,
But not a lot. Like
Yeah.
just a little bit of like
A tasteful amount.
like over the shirt kind of groping situation.
Yeah.
That's the most crossover they get to have. But it's not just
I know-
Batman.
I mean, I knew DC was into some weird shit, but like incest is not like on there as far as I remember.
You've been obviously reading the wrong DC titles.
Yeah.
So if you look at things that are on here, I said a lot of Batman titles. Also, Superman Red Sun is going to fall under this.
Nice.
Right, so they're done some Elseworlds in
okay.
there.
Yeah, Black Orchid by Neil Gaiman is going to be under here. So
Again, that was originally a Vertigo title.
yeah. So
It seems like they're just taking some of the stuff that they're trying to get Vertigo to become more mainstream again by getting rid of the Vertigo title.
Yeah, that's about right.
And which really kind of sucks for me, who's a big fan of Vertigo, because it was a place
Well,
where you could tell real cool, interesting new stories.
things like your Hellblazer and all of that, your Constantine
Hellblazer's
stories.
going to move over to DC Black Label. I can guarantee it's going to move over.
See, it's an ongoing series. As far as we can tell right now, like the stuff that's going to fall under the banner of DC Black Label is going to be one shot or like a trade paperback's worth or a couple trade paperbacks
Okay.
worth
Okay,
of
so
stuff
they want to
right
give
now.
you like the nice, like thick, like full
Right,
story,
if you-
not just the single issues.
Exactly. So single issues will come out for things like the next Batman for the White Knight series is
Okay.
going to come out in single issues.
Oh,
at
under
the-
Black Label.
Right, under Black Label. But at the very end of it, it's just going to be collected into one single trade like
Right.
White Knight was. Boom, there's your comic.
Awesome.
Right, whereas Hellblazer, John Constantine stuff, is an ongoing series, so that remains under the Vertigo line.
I can see that, but it makes more sense to me if they move it over to Black Label because John Constantine is part of the larger DC universe, whereas Vertigo, it isn't. Vertigo generally has nothing to do with the DC universe.
Well,
Yeah.
they just said a few months ago that they were going to be revitalizing the Vertigo brand. So
Okay.
maybe
That's
cool. Yeah, just take away all of the classics that were part of Vertigo, and then
Maybe they
what
have-
are they left with? Nothing.
Maybe they have new stuff. Maybe they're like the Microsoft of stuff. They're like developing new things.
Yeah, there you
instead.
go.
Like we don't have anything
they're not doing
anymore.
what they're not doing what Marvel's doing, which is making movies. And
They're
a lot
certainly
of
not
money.
making any money.
Yeah, the movies are not doing well. But what is doing well in comic books is what we're going to be talking about next, and that is that comic book sales are finally in the black in
Yes.
October of 2018.
You're welcome,
For
comic
the
books.
first time.
It's entirely Hector. Hector.
I was gonna say,
Hector
it's
got
all
a fucking
me
pull list.
getting it.
It's entirely Hector's fault.
It is, yeah, you're the reason that comic books are successful again. This is the first time since I believe 2016 that they've been in positive growth.
Wow.
Right, the comic book industry.
Let's
has
see
been
what
hurting.
happened after that. Oh, some resets that weren't fun.
Yeah, there was a lot of that stuff that happened. But now we're past the resets.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the comic book prime, of the DC rebirth, right? All the stuff that happened post.
Marvel's
Secret-
finally gotten over their fucking stupid like monthly fucking crossover events.
You know what I would
and
almost-
just letting people make shit.
What I would almost blame for this, because you said like since 2016, obviously Infinity War won, but also that kind of like Doctor Strange. There was this point in the Marvel movies where they stopped being grounded as you can say,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden we have magic and everything else, and so at that point. I mean, what really separates the movies from the comic books? I know, I'm sure a lot of people had this monologue internally. Like, I could totally just go read these stories. I love these movies. I've been watching them since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and let me pick up a book. I feel like it's a really good time. It's what made me do it.
Yeah, and we're at this kind of modern comic book renaissance where the things that we've been requesting for ages are kind of finally coming to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I want to go to a comic book store and pick up a comic that will either retell the story I just saw in the theater, or will be something
off of.
build off of. And that's what they're doing with Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel is getting her mini-series right now, retelling her origin story, which we are pretty sure is going to be the origin story they're going to be using in the movie.
Yeah, I picked
'cause
up a
we
Captain
already
Marvel
said
book.
we're not getting an origin story in the movie. Like, we're just jumping in.
Yeah.
This is Captain Marvel. Fucking deal with it.
I picked up a Captain Marvel book on Wednesday, along with a Black Widow book. It was Girl Power Day.
Hey, that's an excellent choice.
It was.
Some of the big highlights of what made October so successful is Batman was top of the charts.
Nice.
He was doing very well. Actually, DC's Heroes in Crisis, which is that series that I've been reading about the superheroes with PTSD.
Yeah.
Really good, top of the charts there. There was a couple things that were a little more markety, like the Walking Dead #1 15th anniversary edition, which is a reprint. But it's been 15 years. They sold a lot of copies of that.
bet you
I
they
get it. I mean, like,
lot of people
I
would've-
jumped in it like issue. I think my earliest one goes back 16 or 17.
Okay.
So
Wait,
it
which
had already
one?
been on for a year.
Was it a single issue? What was it? The
It was just a
reprint
reprint of
what?
Walking Dead #1.
Yeah, so
Oh,
they,
just the first comic.
they
Yeah.
also had blind bags for them,
Oh.
which had like some items in it, plus
Cool.
variant covers. But you couldn't see which ones they are because they were all just wrapped in black bags that said Walking
Yeah.
Dead on them.
Awesome.
So yeah, people just bought those up left and
Yeah.
right. One of the
I get
big
the
things-
blind box thing. Is like, as a collector of stupid
Yeah.
vinyl toys where you don't know what you're gonna
Well,
get.
because what are you gonna get? Well, it's like, well, I could get this. Which one do? I'd
Yeah,
take
just
them
like,
all.
I'll buy all of them, and then I have
Exactly.
maybe
And-
all of them.
And last week when
And,
we were
you know-
at the comic store, there was a big sign that said, "Okay, we need some for everyone, 3 per person maximum."
Yep, that's what it said. The big old sign at Dragon's Lair about it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I know that I've been talking about Batman White Knight left and right on this episode already, but it was the #1 top selling graphic novel that
Dang.
came
I
out.
mean, yeah, I mean, it makes
Like,
sense.
Of
gotta
all the
read
trade
that.
paperbacks that happened, like it was like Batman White Knight came out and everybody went, "Oh yeah, I was waiting for this thing to show up in trade." Yoink.
Everybody had to get some. Was it that the Harley Quinn boob when?
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, DC had a lot of those top titles that we were talking about, but they were not the top seller, right?
Okay.
It was Marvel, DC, and then Image. But it was a very close margin by like 2 or 3%, basically.
That sounds
That, and
Alright.
that's the way I like it. I like it when
Yeah.
they battle around where it's not just one like winning. It's like
Right.
everybody's within 3% of each other, and you're like,
Yep.
cool. We actually have battle going on for fucking what company's making great comics books.
Yeah,
out
because
there.
I mean, now that we can write for the X-Men again, we get like all of our cool staple stuff, and Batman's always Batman. I mean, yeah, I love that kind of competition that we have in the comic book world.
Yeah.
Not so much
Image
with
is
movies.
over there being
So-
like, fuck it, we're Image.
The important thing, though, is momentum, right? Like,
Yes.
Can we retain this?
Right. If comic book sales are up right now, how are they going to continue retaining the audience that they have? And I don't think I have the answer for
Well,
that
right now is a very good time to embrace escapism. So I think they're going to be doing okay for a little while.
I think we would. I mean, call upon the fans. Of what did you do? You got me to just make a day, and now we have Comic Wednesday. We go on lunch at work. If you're one of these people who's helped the comic book industry, if you've gotten into it, I mean, just make it a day and go and check out what's new. You don't have to get something every time.
all right,
but
so
just go check it out.
Wednesday's
Visit
always
your
new
shop.
comic book day.
Yeah.
Like even if you watch Big Bang Theory, they're like, there's Sheldon was pissed because like we have to go to comic store. Why? This is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
It's comic book day. We always do this on Wednesday. Fuck you. It's Wednesday. It's what we do, motherfucker. And like make a day. Maybe it's like Comic Book Friday. You go fucking grab your books and
Yeah.
like, the end of your work
That's
week.
true.
If that's the end of your work
Then you
week,
go
and then-
home and read
that's
some-
your weekend. You
Yeah.
read some
Don't
fucking
e-
books.
You don't even have to do it weekly. I mean, you do it like on payday.
That's
Go out
true.
and pick up a
Yeah.
couple books, or at least pick up a couple trades.
I did
Yeah.
it. I did it basically every other week whenever I got paid. Whenever like this is when I was like hardcore going to the comic book store and collecting like
Civil
200
War era.
When I was collecting like $200 worth of comic books like every other week. Yeah, no, it was problematic.
All right, so we're just
I literally
encouraging
spent all my money
everybody,
doing-
if you can, to go out to your local comic book shop and support your local
And also
comic book
support
shop.
your fucking local comic book store. Just
Yes,
stop
always do
by
that.
and buy some fucking whatever the fuck. Just buy some magic cards.
Yeah.
Don't play the game. Just buy some because you remembered it and go, oh fuck, why did I do that?
We stopped by just to pet cats.
Yeah. I
Ours
was gonna
has
say
cats.
that your local comic book store might have a cat. I'd say there's like 60-40
Yeah.
that it does have a cat. Pet the cat.
Yeah, there you go. All right, that's everything we have for comic book news this week. We're going to take a small break. When we come back, we'll be going to level 2, video game news.
Cool.
Or at least somebody identifies as
Yeah.
a cat and really wants you to pet them.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, as long as it's consensual.
I mean,
Fucking.
Yeah. Don't forget to mention Destiny when we start the section.
I'm about to grab a beer. I think.
I was gonna say.
I
how's
got-
everybody doing tonight?
I got like a third left.
What up,
DC?
Blake,
What's
Jay?
up? What's going on?
DC is good for story. Yeah, DC is
DC,
absolutely
yeah.
killing it.
If
in the story
only they
market.
could film one.
Right?
DC has these amazing stories that Zack Snyder said, shove it right up my ass, and whatever comes out is what I'm actually putting on film.
And that's the thing, like, and I'm the great dissenter in this group. I actually enjoy several of the DC movies, but they're bad. Like,
Just because you enjoy it, you don't mean you don't know that it's bad.
I
Like,
like
know
them.
it's bad.
I would never recommend them to anyone. I like them.
When Gotham is the most entertaining thing that DC's putting out right now, that's the bar is low.
So like Last Starfighter, when I had you
Oh,
gave
yeah.
that to you, I was like, that's a movie like I know you'll like.
Yeah.
Most people won't like that movie.
Oh yeah, that's true. A lot of people.
I
would have been
like that
what is
movie.
this? That
And that's the
was
same
fun.
with some of the DC stuff. You're like, I can like parts of it, but on the whole,
On the
Yeah.
whole,
it's very painful.
Well, I've been
it is painful on the whole.
Yeah, I've been super into the CW shows this season. They've all
They've all been great so
They've
far.
all really matured in their own ways this season.
Yeah,
Like,
see, I've been so
Supergirl got
reluctant
yeah.
to jump in because like some of them were so bad last season. Like Arrow's was getting so like I was getting so exhausted by Arrow, and they're like, "We're gonna put him in jail," and I'm like, "Well, didn't the Flash just do that?" And then don't
The
even
Flash
get
did
me
do that.
started on Supergirl last season.
Oh, yeah.
because oh my god,
By
what
the
a
end
fucking
of,
train
by
wreck
the
that
end
was.
of that season, I was just
So-
like, I was so done with it. I didn't watch the last 3 episodes. Apparently,
Oh.
I started this season. Wait,
You thought it
wait,
was
what
over?
happened? And I
No,
went,
because
oh,
she beats
that's fine.
She beats the bad guy like 8 times in the
And that's
season.
why I
Yeah.
said fuck it. I mean, I know she won because she won a bunch. I don't fucking need to know which time she won again.
Yeah, but they all like evolved. They all did spun it up a notch. Supergirl got really political. The Flash got
Oh, Supergirl got ridiculously
yeah.
political. Like Supergirl seems like it's being written week to week at this point.
Yeah, the Flash is like hyper focused on family right now. Okay, so whatever the fuck is going on with Legends of Tomorrow, please do more of that. It
I need to
is
go
so
watch that.
fucking crazy.
But-
It's the best DC CW show right now. Period.
Wow.
Because it's fucking nuts.
My favorite of the was the Arrow part where because we're getting Flash Futures.
Yeah, now it's Flash Future instead of Flashback, but it's still
Yeah.
on the fucking island.
Yeah, it's still
Spoilers,
no,
but mild spoilers.
it's only on the
Damn it.
island for the first episode.
That's true. Okay.
But whenever it's in the first episode, like I'm gonna spoil it a little bit for you
'Cause it's like the first
'cause,
5 minutes of the first
it's-
episode.
It's his son like going to the island, and he meets.
Oh,
some-
yeah, I watched the first episode.
Okay, yeah, and
Okay.
he's like, yeah, my boyfriend, and the other guy's like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, there's like this pausing moment. It's like he's like, am I gonna get a reaction? He's like, don't care. Yeah, why are you here?
yeah,
I don't care. You like sucking dick. Why the fuck are you on my island?
yeah. No, when he meets Rory and he's like, oh yeah, and he mentions Aunt Thea, I was like, no, put her on the show. I need more Thea in my life.
All right, let's grab beer so we can
she's
jump
yeah,
into
let's
the
do
game.
this.
like she's. I don't think she's coming back for a while.
Yeah,
Makes
maybe.
me
I don't know.
sad.
Her Instagram's been really quiet lately.
You're weird.
Am I?
no.
Who needs a beer? I'm over here.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, the DC TV shows have been killer though. Like,
Fresh squeeze,
if they
I
could,
got a mosaic.
whatever,
You don't
man.
care?
There's this thing that says Texas on it. Fucking give it to me.
All the beer just says Texas.
Yeah, just Texas.
Texas, you got it.
Texas.
We got it.
Texas. Texas.
It's just
Texas.
Texas Pilsner? Oh, it's Independence. Okay. I'm there for you.
It's really fucking. Have you tried this?
No, I don't usually drink Pilsners.
It's really fucking good. It's really
Unless
fucking.
it's like super hot outside or I've just mown a lawn.
Well, it's on sale right now. That's the reason why I grabbed it. I mean, I normally like it, but yeah, give it a try.
Yeah.
Go ahead and swap us over.
Yeah.
Oh, that is good. It's
Yeah, it's incredibly just drinkable.
crisp.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's not like, it doesn't punch you in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
It just kind of like.
And it doesn't taste bad because usually most beer that's on the lighter side, it kind of just tastes like rice water. That's nice.
Yeah, that's because they use rice in the ingredients. Well, a lot of these smaller ones don't use that. 'Cause
Right.
They're not going. That's also what you do for lagers instead of ales, because lagers it makes a consistent flavor. Because rice
Right.
is very consistent in its flavor profile versus hops,
Grain
and
or-
barley,
yeah.
grains and temperature of grains and what. It's way more complicated. All right.
Nicely done, Tony. Let's
Well
jump in
done.
and do this.
Where'd the mouse go?
I seriously need to make the fucking like a separate account.
like
That way
3
it's
times
like
the
this
size.
like this super large mouse, be like, and change the color of it to where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like glowing neon or something that blinks, and you're like, okay, there it is. I can move it now. Instead of fucking white on white on white. Level 2, video game news.
Hey, adventurers, welcome back to the show. Before we get started in video game news, Tony has a really quick announcement for you.
Hey, if you have a Battle.net account or just want to make one, you get Destiny 2 base game for free until like the 18th. So, like, do that. It's actually, the base game is really fun.
Yeah,
and
I'd
it's
recommend
free.
it. I don't play Destiny 2 anymore, but I would, for free, absolutely, if you have a computer, just go play this game.
Yeah,
It's
like
great.
for me, like I bought it on PC for $12, part of the Humble Bundle.
Yeah.
So at least in my mind, I was like, I gave it to charity.
Yeah, and
So-
it really is like...
But for free, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's a AAA quality game. You can play all the way through it. Like, it's yours forever to keep for free. Just give it a chance. I mean, play it, and then when you don't want to play it anymore, you didn't lose anything. It was free.
Yeah,
Just
you
play it.
just your
Yeah.
time, and the story is fun enough for free.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all the news we have for video games. So good night.
All right, so to kick things off in the world of video games this week, really big announcement coming out of Microsoft, in that as of this week, they've acquired 2 RPG developers, Obsidian Entertainment and Inexile. And Obsidian Entertainment we knew about.
Yeah,
The
that
other
got
one-
leaked
You
about
may
a month
know-
or so ago.
Right, you'll know Obsidian from a lot of stuff. They did Fallout New Vegas, which they're most famous for, and also the Pillars of Eternity games.
They
which-
did Knights of the Old Republic 2, I believe, also.
Yeah, way back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fantastic RPG makers. I mean, Pillars of Eternity. There's no more classic RPG.
I mean, they
Online,
come from
period.
historically. Both of these teams come from the creation of Fallout.
Right,
Like
yeah.
not just Fallout New Vegas, but like,
No, like
Fallout
Fallout,
1
yeah.
and Baldur's Gate. They understand
Right. Which is
action-oriented
But now
RPGs.
you have the other company that we're talking about, which is Inexile,
In
and
Exile.
they're the ones that have Wasteland 2
Right.
and the Torment games, which is
Yeah.
the Torment games are considered by far like some of the greatest
Yeah,
RPGs.
some of their higher ups
Yeah.
did come from Fallout and from Baldur's Gate. They're
Yeah.
literally
Oh, yeah,
the
that
higher ups of
Black
the
Isle
company.
background.
Yeah, Black
So-
Isle split into these companies.
So at this point, we have 2 developers who make really great RPGs in general, who both in the last 5 years had their games crowdfunded. Yeah, I mean, Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 were both crowdfunded.
Yep.
Wasteland 2 was incredibly well crowdfunded. And they're both like symmetrical, turn-based, isometric is the word I meant, turn-based like games. I can't wait to see what they do.
So, and that's the interesting part about this is because both of these studios are in this. They're not AAA developers.
No.
but they're also not.
they make
But
incredibly
But
good-
they're not indie developers though.
They yeah.
are the middle ground that makes incredibly interesting games. But unfortunately, doesn't have like the monetary backing to make the level of games that they want to.
Right, and their
Even
games
with
are
crowdfunding, I mean, you can
incredibly
only
high
reach
quality, too.
such a point of degree. Whereas Microsoft can be like, we will answer by throwing money at the problem.
Yeah.
And
Now think about this.
there's
So
been a culture shift at Microsoft.
this is 2
recently.
really big studios, but over the last year, we knew that Microsoft announced at E3 that they were buying up like 5 different studios.
Yeah.
We know that they bought up Ninja Theory, which they did I think they did Hellblade. I wanna say.
Yes, Senua's Sacrifice, Ninja Theory did one of the PlayStation 3's launch titles, and then another game after that. And so they're the studio that works with Weta down in New Zealand.
Right.
Yeah, a wonderful game company, makes great games. The one with the monkey staff and the girl. I'm
I
having.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but I can't
no,
remember the
like-
name.
Yeah, I
Somebody
cannot-
tell us what it is, 'cause
But
we're
it's a
calling, like,
it's a
it's right
great
there.
game, but I'll never remember the
It's a giant
title
like,
of it.
like super story driven game.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, this is part of stuff that was announced during Microsoft's like X18 event over the last week, which was their big like thing they did in Mexico, where they just announced a bunch of random upcoming things for Microsoft
this is something
Studios.
they did back at like the original Xbox era and a little bit during the 360, and they just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
and now they're doing these Xbox conferences all over the world, kind of whenever the fuck they want to. Whenever they're like, it's 6 months, we got more announcements. Here you go. Here's some more Xbox
Right.
shit.
Look at these studios that they're buying up, though. When you talk about just say these 3, let's talk about Ninja Theory, Exile, and the other one. These are all companies that do very different types of games, but all of their studios do very story-driven games.
Right.
because they're RPGs.
Right, but not Ninja Theory. Ninja Theory isn't
Well, okay, so the 2 we mentioned today are make RPG
Right,
games.
yes,
But it's almost like they're going down the category list. So like, all right, so
for real.
what's the action? All right, Ninja Theory does really great story-driven action games. Let's get them. All right, RPGs. Who can we get at a reasonable cost? We're not talking about a Square Enix here. Who are the guys that did Wasteland? We could probably get them.
Yep.
Maybe they don't want to crowdfund their next game. Maybe
Right.
they want us to like throw money at their faces. And you know what this reminds me of? During the 360, the Microsoft was first to the the indie devs. I mean, the reason everyone enjoyed Super Meat Boy, basically
they just last week reached 1,000 games released on ID at Xbox,
right?
Which is more than any outside of Steam, which is just repeats of repeats of repeats,
right?
Like out of between Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, way more than anybody else has for indie games.
And when I think about the game that launched the modern indie developer, indie game era, I think of Super Meat Boy. Right. Period. And I think of the team that did Castle Crashers, Behemoth, stuff like that.
I mean,
and that
it's
all
Fez,
came
but
out.
these all came out right around the exact same time.
Yeah, Fez was
anything you watch an
a
indie
different
game, the
studio.
movie, that was them.
Yeah. That was the generation that decided to make new interesting games by themselves,
right,
for themselves.
And a lot of those were, I mean, I know Super Meat Boy specifically, they were funded with Microsoft money. They were like, you have an interesting game, let's do this.
Yeah.
And now I feel like they're kind of doing the same thing, but they're ratcheting it up a notch. They're taking like people who make really good, well-received crowdfunded games and going, here's real money. Let's see what you got.
Here's the thing, not to poo-poo on Microsoft. But there is another console out there that's been doing this for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Sony has been doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Guacamelee, if you just go back to
Journey.
Journey.
I mean, come on.
That's what they do. Sony looks for these indie studios.
Mm-hmm.
They fund these indie studios, and I'm not even mad. I'm not saying this is This is not a dick measuring competition. This is good for the entire industry.
It really is.
And
Finding
again,
new talent is
but
everything.
what Microsoft is doing with these buyouts isn't to compete with Sony.
No.
And it's not to compete with Steam. It's to create a new platform of streaming original content to PC, to Xbox, to your phone, to anything, and say, literally, here's Microsoft the world, buy your monthly subscription and have access to it. That's what they're doing. They're not trying to win console sales.
Yeah.
They are literally saying, we're playing a different game than Sony and Nintendo. Right. We are playing a different game than Valve is.
Yeah.
We are playing the Microsoft game because we're not going to compete with Apple on their stupid phones anymore. We're not going to compete with Apple on their PCs. We're just going to do Microsoft World, and fuck you, let's have Microsoft World.
Right.
As long as I don't have to use the Microsoft phone.
I'm going to skip around my show notes a little bit because you kind of led to one of the other topics we're going to be talking about. And that is that we found out this week that PlayStation Now actually is the biggest, most subscribed to service of its kind that currently exists.
So outside of it's finally surpassed Xbox Live.
Right.
So
Nintendo is way lower on its numbers.
Well, no, this is specifically looking at not Xbox Live accounts. This is the service of PlayStation Now.
Okay.
The service of PlayStation Now, in which you subscribe to it, and you can. It's a cloud-based service where you.
Okay, this isn't play. I'm sorry, I got it confused with PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now because everything is named PlayStation something.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got Xbox Live. I only have two things. Game Pass.
So the competition for this particular space in video games is like PlayStation Now. Then you have like EA Origin.
Right.
You have Microsoft Game Pass.
Is there a Nintendo thing? I know they have. I don't
No,
think they have a subscription
they just have a live
You can
version
just buy
right now.
their old console
you buy games.
Yeah.
You don't have a. I think they said they were working on one, but it's not up
So
yet.
PlayStation Now, with their kind of streaming video game offering, we found out this week, actually makes more money than EA Access, Origin Access, and Xbox Game Pass put together.
That doesn't surprise me at all, considering the install base of the PlayStation and how PlayStation Now has offered games to markets that didn't have them before, because none of the games are region locked.
So here's the thing about this, though, is that based on the numbers, by the way, PlayStation Now is only available in 12 countries, whereas all the rest of the platforms I just talked about are worldwide.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's the density of people that want to subscribe to PlayStation Now and get access to all those titles.
That's weird, because I really thought no one subscribed to PlayStation Now.
Oh, no.
You are
a lot of people
absolutely
do.
incorrect.
Apparently, I was very incorrect.
So
But then again, I
especially
also
in
see
foreign
no
countries.
reason to buy a PlayStation.
So the console market in a lot of South American countries is actually completely underground because normal people can't afford them. So
Yeah.
To be able to sell them to people, they developed a system that is, for the most part, illegal. So when you get your PlayStation 4, if you live, I'm giving an example, I could be wrong, but Brazil, there's nowhere to buy games, and you can't really connect to the Brazilian version of the PlayStation Store. So you get something like PlayStation Now, usually with like an American address and a credit card, and you can play the entire library like of Sony's past works or past games, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's true. Actually, funny anecdote about that. I was on forums that I'm on a couple weeks ago, and somebody that's on our forums actually said, like, hey, can somebody go and pick up a copy of, like, Forza 4 for us? And it's like, I'll pay you for it. Like, I need you to pick it up and send it to me.
Right.
And we were like, well, why can't you just go get it? And
Just download that shit, bitch.
He's like, well, first off, can't download it.
Can't download it.
Can't download it, A. And B, to get a copy, it would be like $300, basically. And it's like, or I could just send you like 60, and that's with a tip.
Yeah.
To just get it and send it to me.
Yep.
Like, that's how bad it is over there. So it is interesting.
Can I just like give you the code?
Well,
Just,
that's
like,
the
go
thing.
buy a code and
This
give
is
it?
the reason why
You
a
can
lot of
download
video game consoles.
No, you can't though unless you have a VPN.
Right,
And
like
most people
you-
don't know how to do that.
Yeah, and you can gift games on Steam. Everyone knows that, and good old games and stuff like that.
You can, and
The reason-
Microsoft's adding all that now.
Right, well, the thing is, Microsoft is going to have a tough time with this, and there's a reason that Sony hasn't tried, is because internationally, it's a huge deal for like someone in the United States to buy their friend in Brazil a video game. Like that crosses all kinds of lines that those countries do not want crossed.
That is true.
Which is it's on the surface for me and my friends and just
Yeah.
hanging out and like it seems very arbitrary.
Oh, for sure.
But I
Like, you
understand.
could literally drive the
Right.
entire
But
video
you
game
were-
economy of a country.
Tony, you were
from
thinking
American
locally
sales.
and not globally.
Yeah, well, I need to act global. I need to act locally and think globally.
I think the question is,
act
does it
locally.
scale?
I don't know.
But yeah, it's really
I'm just
interesting.
trying to remember all my
because
lines from Biodome.
To be fair, I did not even think about this until I read this article. I was kind of with Tony on this. I'm like, who the fuck subscribes to PlayStation Now? But apparently, it's a much bigger fucking.
Entire
I literally
countries.
know. I
It's
know
huge,
one
especially in
person
Europe.
that subscribes to PlayStation Now because they work for Sony. That's it. That's the one person I know that has it.
Yeah, they're not even paying
No
for it.
one else I know has it.
I'll tell you the only reason I don't is because I've had a PlayStation since the PlayStation 1. I played all those games.
Right, that's true.
And-
And the fact of the matter is that a lot of these games that come out on PlayStation Now are not PS4 gen
Correct,
stuff.
yes.
Right?
It's
This
all,
is previous.
all the way back.
Yeah, but it's a pretty robust library.
Yes, it's huge.
very much like what Microsoft is doing with their backwards compatibility.
Yeah, all right. So that's the sleeper hit for the next generation. Whenever the new consoles come out and Microsoft actually unveils their streaming service.
Yeah.
That is they're like, well, it's $100 and you can just subscribe to Game Pass and you have access to literally every game we've ever had.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you're on PC, which another part of the news we have isn't in the notes, but something that came out of the Xbox 18 conference thing was Phil Spencer. They asked him like, hey, the Microsoft Store like sucks. Like getting on Xbox the program thing on Windows is horrible, and no one wants to do it, which is
truly
why
horrifying.
no one buys anything there. No one uses it. And he says, and he said, "Oh, I'm having that fixed." That means he's going to do to what that store was what he did to Xbox, which is say, "Fuck you! I'm making this so much better."
Just give me the goddamn Xbox store on my PC. I would use
You
that.
can use the exact same layout. It's fucking basically HTML anyway.
Exactly.
Just load that shit.
And everyone's holding a controller on their PC. If they load up the Xbox store, you can just use the blades or whatever the fuck it's called these days and just go through it.
Obligatory comment of, so guys, you got rid of the Vita, Sony. Fix your fucking operating system, please.
Yeah, please just.
Is that like the? We're gonna add on like Sony. Here's something stupid that you need to fix too.
Yeah.
Just like,
Just fix your fucking
Yeah,
operating
I bet
system.
you when we get the new console,
I know, and that you're
Like-
right about that though. The Vita is what really held back the operating system for
absolutely.
Sony, at least on the UI
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
for a very long time.
Because they were beholden to essentially the PSP and and that being said,
Yeah,
the
and
PS2.
those things are, but they still can't say that they're dead. They cannot say that they're dead because in America they are dead.
Right.
They're not dead in Japan.
With the Vita?
Yeah.
No, they announced they're stopping
yeah,
production.
Vita's
Oh,
done. Yeah,
oh,
they're,
did
they're
they?
no
Did
longer
we talk
making.
about that?
Yeah,
They're
did
no.
we?
I didn't.
forgot.
But no. We didn't talk about it because I didn't think it was really.
Oh, because
no one here
newsworthy-
cares.
Okay, well, you just had me celebrating a bunch because I'm
I
like, yay,
care.
death to
I-
something that Sony
I
made.
love my Vita. Okay.
Which why it sits in a box and it's been powered off for like a year and a
Hey,
half.
if you're gonna play a PlayStation 4 game while you're pooping, there's no better way.
There is no like.
There's
I
literally
I
no
play-
other way to play a PlayStation 4 game while you're
I
pooping.
can play
Exactly.
Persona 5 like while taking a shower.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why not?
Yeah, I mean that sounds like the best way to play.
You know what?
Persona 5.
Honestly, I think
And
you
Catherine,
should
by the
only
way.
Catherine.
you should only play.
Now you're making it weird.
Oh yeah, it wasn't weird before.
no,
Although
but-
although, yeah, it's a good point because Catherine Full Body is supposed to come out on the Vita.
Yes, it
And
is.
so I'm wondering if there's still going to be. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that because I was going to get it for my Vita just to have another Vita game.
Well, no, can you please only play Persona in the shower? Because if I hear Persona one more fucking goddamn time, I'm killing the television.
Hey, it's exciting when you're playing it. You just need to play the game.
Right.
No, I hear like every 30 seconds, I'm going to stab the motherfucker.
Okay, so we do have one more bit of video game news for the week to talk about, and it's only exciting for some people. But we've been talking about this idea of like Microsoft moving towards the future,
Yeah.
and what they want to be doing next, in air quotes.
I call it Microsoft don't give a fuck.
So at X18, the event in Mexico City, it was announced that actually starting this week, Xbox insiders will be able to use mouse and keyboard on an Xbox.
Okay, well that leaked a while ago. Well, they didn't. They actually announced mouse and keyboard support a long time ago.
Yeah.
But the Insider program,
It's been a long
which
time coming.
I'm a part of, and they also gave you very quick instructions. Be like, here's how to get to the Insider level that you need to have mouse and keyboard support. It is currently only for one game. It is for Warframe.
I thought it was for
So
Fortnite.
Well,
they
originally
said,
they said is Warframe is
Right.
our test ground.
Oh, okay. That's
so,
interesting.
Looks like we're gonna start with Fortnite and Warframe.
Okay,
But over
I
the
didn't know
course-
about Fortnite,
right,
but
over
I
the
knew
course of-
Warframe was like that's the one that we've had access to already. For some of us that are in the I'm in the alpha level, so my shit breaks all the time.
Yeah.
but I've had access to mouse and keyboard for Warframe for I think a month now, and I just haven't used it because I don't play Warframe.
So over the course of
Interesting.
just the
It's a
month
fun
of
game for a while.
November, Bomber Crew, Deep Rock Galactic, Strange Brigade, Vermintide 2, War Thunder, X-Morph Defense will also be added to that. They've also said that coming down the road is Children of Morta, DayZ, Minion Master, Moonlighter, Vigor, Warface, and Wargroove that are going to be getting it.
So at this point, like, all right, this is a preparing for the future where we have mouse and keyboard support for a next generation console.
Right.
And then they're going to be like, here's the price of it. And also, there's zero reason to buy a PC because the graphics on this are going to be great for a 60 hertz monitor, and because we'll output 60 frames per second,
Hopefully.
with keyboard and mouse support. And all you have to do is pay $100 down, and then like $20 a month, and just play whatever fucking game you want.
The future you're projecting would be wonderful. Let's see what happens, because that's a lot.
You think you think it's a lot, but I
No,
fully
you're
see
literally planning to fix the entire video game industry with one sentence.
I think if anybody can fix anything, it's Microsoft.
God, I hate it when he gets
Yikes.
his Microsoft fanboy boner out. It's
Yeah,
like-
just yikes. You know what Microsoft can't do for the last 6 years? Produce a game.
Right.
So maybe they will convert the entire console industry to 60 frames a second. I don't think so. Maybe not right now.
Let's get another Halo out the door before we start making assumptions about
let's
things.
get another Halo. Let's put a Halo on PC. Just
Right?
for the love of
Well, first off,
fucking
they did
Cthulhu.
already announce that Halo is not coming to, or Halo Infinity is not coming to PC.
No, that's the opposite of what they said. I thought they said Halo 5 wasn't coming to PC, but Halo Infinity was.
Okay,
being
then
moved
I might be reversing them then.
Okay, well, we'll look.
I
it
know
up
they said
later.
the Master Chief Collection isn't coming to PC,
I think
Correct.
that
and that's
all
the one
of these-
everybody's like, "Why the fuck?"
All
didn't
of
you
these
do
Yeah.
predictions are subject to change, considering
Indeed.
the fact that Microsoft is trying to build out an online platform that will merge both console and PC together.
All right, right.
So-
on.
that? And phones and a
And all
bunch of other stuff.
That I guess phones too. I don't know. I guess
And tablets,
Blizzard,
and literally-
Blizzard said everybody has phones, so I guess that's the case.
As long as you can connect
No,
to
they
the
didn't.
internet.
They didn't say everyone has phones. They asked the rest of the Porzies, "Don't y'all have phones?
So play Diablo.
Don't you have a fucking Ferrari, bro? I mean, keep up."
All right, that's everything we have for video game news this week. We're going to take a small break. When we come back, we'll be going into level 3 entertainment news.
That was my sassy Blizzard voice.
So the only thing I was going to add to the news, but I couldn't figure out, like there's no logical place you can put in it, was the Activision's earning call, where they called out Bungie.
Oh yeah.
Did you read about that? Okay, so quick fun aside.
Hilarious aside.
Activision in their earnings call said there's been a few games that have been underperforming. Destiny 2 is like at the top of the list.
There was like a cough, like it was a super sarcastic like. So a couple games have been underperforming. Destiny 2.
Which is fucked up because we actually like immediately everybody ran the numbers. And they went, you do realize that Destiny 2 Forsaken outsold Spider-Man, like the game that everybody won't shut the fuck up about. Forsaken outsold Spider-Man.
Wow.
But the reason why I said it underperformed is it brought back all the old players. It didn't bring anybody new in yet.
Yeah, that's where that number goes. That many people bought Destiny 2, not Forsaken. First of all,
No, it wasn't. No, they said just the sales of Forsaken. if you buy the $40 expansion, you actually Bungie made more money than Sony.
Okay, so
than they
money,
did.
not copies, because
No, they
Spider-Man.
sold- no, they- no, they-
Spider-Man outsold like pretty much everything this
Until
year.
Red Dead happened.
Until Red
until
Dead.
Red Dead, but. No, it wasn't more money because it actually cost less money for Forsaken. They
Oh, yeah,
sold
for
more
real.
copies
Yeah.
and they made more money. So
I don't
because
think
it-
they sold more copies. I really don't.
it-
I need
it's
a fact
$40
check.
versus $60.
Oh no, no, I think they made more money. I don't think they sold more copies.
I think okay. So correction. Actually, no, there is one way. If they count the expansion pass as part of that.
Maybe, yeah.
If
I
they
could
do,
see that.
because then it's $60 to $60 instead of $40
That's some really
to
weird
$60.
metrics we'll have to look at. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna take a quick break. You guys keep the audience entertained.
Yeah.
You could have left while the entire time we were fucking talking about this.
Yeah.
Specifically wanted to talk about Destiny.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
but
I
he
wanna
just
talk-
talks Destiny to me though. Like we're the only people who played it.
Yeah, I once I put the my old Xbox in the living room, anybody will have access to Destiny 2 and Forsaken.
That's right.
They can play it while I am logged in
Okay.
because it is actually no wait, it's not on that hard drive. I
So
uninstalled
I'm
that. second-
down. I'm down for like a Soul Calibur like Saturday sort of thing. That sounds like fun. But something I was telling James about is the video game awards are like a Thursday night,
Okay.
and that Friday we have a work thing where we get to like sleep in. So I thought we might like just like hunker down and like give it a shot because
Are you talking about live streaming? Because
no, I'm not talking about live streaming our reactions to it. That's weird, and it'll be
Yeah.
like a 4-hour stream, and you just like a camera on us while we what? No,
yeah,
that's
it would
weird.
be us on the main screen, like a little corner of it would be.
I'm not suggesting we
watching
live
it.
stream it. I'm suggesting
I
that
don't
we
wanna do that.
watch it at all because the last couple of years it has been a big deal news-wise in the game industry.
I mean, they show fucking trailers for shit they don't give a
It's
fuck
not
about.
that. It's like when Kojima got booed on stage. That happened at the Video Game Awards. When a
No,
publisher
Konami got booed on stage.
Konami is who I mean.
Kojima,
Yeah.
Kojima didn't show up.
Kojima could not accept his award.
Because it was for Konami.
Right, Konami got booed on stage. You have developers defending EA right to a camera when they have no reason to do so, just saying like they weren't that bad. Y'all give them a chance. There's been a lot of interesting stuff going on at every year at the Video Game Awards, and this year Jeff is saying that the announcements that they have are
Jeff Kaplan.
No, Jeff Keighley.
Okay, there's certain Jeffs.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Which
there are a
Jeff?
lot of Jeffs. They spell it Geoff. He's one of those.
Oh,
so,
Geoff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's not, but you can't pronounce that Jeff. It's
yeah,
Geoff.
He was way back
It starts with a
on
fucking G.
like IGN.com or something like that. And now he's just his own video game personality. But Jeff Keighley, he does the Video Game Awards, and every year they've kind of been great from the beginning and gotten better and better and better.
Yeah, no,
and the awards.
it's when they got away from the corporate sponsorship of
Yeah,
TV channels.
they got away from, like, the
When they said, "Fuck
VMA,
you, we're gonna do
yeah.
it on like Twitch, and that's all we're
Yeah,
gonna do."
the MTV Video Game Awards, where Call of Duty wins every year because it sold the most
Spike
copies.
TV was here's a shitload of trailers for things coming out next month.
Yeah,
and
these are people who give awards to stuff like Journey and like The Witcher 3
Yeah, no, like,
and
we
Metal Gear
talked
Solid
about it. I
5.
think it was before you were on the show. We talked about like how the video game awards now are actually worth something.
Yeah,
Whereas
for real.
before you could win an award, you're like, unless it was an industry award given to you by the industry,
Correct.
which this is.
Yeah,
now.
it is. It really is.
Before it was the Spike
Well, it was-
TV
yeah.
giving an award because
Spike TV's gonna run some fucking commercials and
Yeah.
get paid.
and they're
That's
gonna
what
give
the
you literally
award was
whoever
for.
was the one they think is the
Right,
best.
and hosted by like fucking Samuel L. Jackson or someone. Not that I don't love me some Samuel L. Jackson, but I don't care what he has to say
the
about
motherfucker
video
will
games.
show up to a wet fart if you pay him.
For real. But it doesn't matter like what he has to say about video games, and it was mostly just showing trailers for upcoming games, and it was like
Whereas this isn't. You
No.
get actually shit. If you do get trailers, it's gonna be for shit that's like way down the line. Actually, shit they want to show off.
right, and you get meaningful awards, and you get like an Oscar style way back machine where they're like, here are the people who developed the game Kingsfield. Most of you are far too young to know what
You don't know what the
Kingsfield
fuck
is.
this is.
This husband and wife from like rural Missouri invented Kingsfield because they could program on a computer when computers were new. Respect.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it'd be cool to watch that. I just have to like know what day it is and all that shit. And
I think it's like December 9th
I have
or
time.
8th.
Yeah, I just need to know. I just need to know the week before so I can just take that night off.
Yeah, it's just a Thursday
I
night.
normally get off work by 5 o'clock anyway. Except for this
You might
week.
not need to take it off
Tomorrow
then.
I work till 7, and then like Thursday I work till like 8. I don't know why the fuck. Like I hate working late, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be annoying as shit. It actually asked me to work late today, and it wanted me to extend my hours even more tomorrow. I'm like,
It's only going to get worse all year long with the. I mean, well until
No,
Thanksgiving.
dude, I seriously need a fucking new job. Like, I can't take this anymore. I'm getting paid. They're making me work more to deal with more fucking annoying ass people in the store because it's fucking holiday shit, and I'm getting paid less and less and less every fucking week.
You should just. I mean, see if you can.
Like every week, I can guarantee my pay has been going down about between $15 to $30 every
Right.
single week.
Well, maybe you can get a job at the actual store instead of like gathering groceries. I mean, from what
I
I,
don't wanna
hear,
fucking
HEB is a really good company to work
They
for.
are, and their base pay is like 14, which that's what I averaged out to before.
Yeah.
I don't like actually dealing with customers, and they have no dedicated. Your job is to walk around and shop for people.
Yeah.
You can do it for like 2 weeks, then you have to go do something else. Then you do
Yeah.
that for 2 weeks. You do this, and you always have to learn how to do checkout. And I'm like, no, I literally never want to talk to a person. I want to take the cart and take shit and put it in a fucking
Right.
thing, and get the fuck out of here.
Right. If you pay me every day to like get the vegetables, load them onto the cart, put the vegetables in the loading
That's what
area.
Aaron's saying. Is like I could do their stocking like
Yeah.
at night.
Stocking, you could get like a forklift certification, do some fucking forklifting.
Okay, what's with the forklift shit that was in our chat?
Oh no, okay, so there's a.
I was going through the picture because if you
Oh,
on
yeah.
your phone you can just swipe through pictures instead of, and I had like no
Oh,
context.
so you didn't have no context.
I had no
Okay.
context. I just switched over to fucking forklifts.
So how
and
familiar are you with trebuchet memes?
There were some, yeah.
Right, so there's
This
it's
is the
like
new trebuchet
it's
meme?
it's a bunch of people nerding out over a stupid piece of technology, and it's a meme, and so you get these really accurate, really specific forklift memes made by forklift operators.
I was wondering what
And
the
then they
fuck was up
combine
with
them
that.
into like they combine them into actual memes. So it's like
Yeah,
you
no,
get
it was
like
a fucking like chaos field of memes. Like
you get like a level 3 sitting forklift operator operating a standing forklift Pikachu. Like, come on, like you understand the context enough to know that it's funny, and the funniest part is how stupid the fucking meme is. And I don't know.
and the thing is, like, I was super confused about it.
It's slightly
Speaking of,
charming.
I haven't watched the Pikachu trailer.
I haven't either.
Yeah, no, it's what I'm gonna do after the show.
I think my favorite comment so far was props to Ryan Reynolds for playing Pikachu so that he can make fun of himself for playing Pikachu in the next Deadpool.
Yeah, and that's from a fucking really famous fucking comic writer. It's fucking what's his name?
Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah,
that
Chip
said that.
Zdarsky.
dude, I hope we get a Ryan Reynolds, like full-on Ryan Reynolds standing next to Deadpool next game, and he goes, "Fuck off, Pikachu," and just runs away.
I gotta pee.
Okay.
Do it.
I was waiting, like you were telling me thing.
Yeah, no, do your thing.
I'm trying to figure out how you guys went from Destiny to forklift.
It was a wild journey, my friend.
I was only gone for a
I
couple
was gonna
minutes.
say you smoked like a 4-minute cigarette, and we got all the way to Pikachu.
Just got really fucking crazy.
It's time to Pikachu. It's a new equation that came up.
Time to
Time to
Pikachu.
Pikachu. ETP.
That sounds like
Estimated time
that
to
sounds like
Pikachu.
a pedophile thing.
Yeah, it does.
That went dark. That's what I bring to the table.
Yeah, when the memes get far too dark. Okay, so like that, and the thing is, like, I usually find really dark memes in like slightly poor taste. I just kind of go, ugh. And then anti-vaxxer memes came along. And that's the whole point. It's like, lol, joke about a child who dies at 2 years old because his parent didn't vaccinate him. But it really should hit you that way because vaccinate your fucking kids.
It's darkness for the sake of like enlightenment.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can
It's
see that.
hey, you know, if I like take this baby and like throw it off this balcony, it's pretty much the same thing you're doing. Lol, dead baby joke. Also, vaccinate your kids. Not gonna lie, vaccinate them.
Oh, Jesus.
If your kid dies of fucking smallpox, you should be put to death. That just plain and simple.
Oh man, we have some really great stuff lined up for epilogue discussions over the next few weeks. We got a little bit sidetracked this week with Stan Lee stuff.
Yeah, we had a really cool epilogue, and we'll do it sometime in the future. But today, I mean, precedent took place.
Yeah, so
Can I get another one
we
out of
we have some pretty cool stuff around the corner. Well, I know that we want to discuss things like grinding in single player games.
Grinding.
Yeah.
Fresh squeeze.
Your Deschutes.
Yep.
We also have some things to talk about the politics in video games, whether
Yeah.
or not they should be there. That's right around the corner. We're going to be talking about that.
Right. We've talked about it before, but there was an opinion recently made by the makers of The Division 2 who said that they don't get political because it's bad for sales, and we have some opinions about that.
Yeah, we do have some very strong opinions. So, yeah, look forward to that as one of our future epilogues. That's going to be, in fact, probably next week, barring any craziness
Sure,
happening.
unless Chip Zdarsky dies.
Right.
Yeah.
Please don't let that happen.
Yeah,
Good
Jesus
Lord.
Christ.
I cannot have two amazing Spider-Man writers just go.
Exactly. Please, people, just can you not die for the rest of the year? Let's not repeat 2016. It's not a race. We don't have to get there by the 31st. Everyone, chill. Stay at home. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I'm fucking looking at you.
She needs to stay alive for the next 2 years. At least the next 2 years.
Please go home and sit by the fire very comfortably in a fireproof blanket and just read. That's all you get to do.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the notorious RBG, needs to stay alive for at least 2 more years.
There's a really
Right.
great meme I saw right before we recorded the episode, and it was just this picture of, like, so everybody predicted the world would end in 2012. Have any of you been happy since 2012? And the picture under it is a picture from The Good Place, and all it says is, "We're in the bad place."
Well, no, like I think I distinctly remember watching an episode of Community where they rolled some dice and went into the fucking darkest timeline.
Oh yeah, no, this is full on the darkest timeline. Also the strangest timeline.
Yeah.
It really is.
Why couldn't we have been in the sexiest timeline?
Right?
God damn.
All right, let's
Can
jump
I
into
just be in the
some...
no pants timeline? I still want to wear pants.
It's really the same as the hentai timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into some entertainment stuff. Let's talk about some fun stuff before we get into the depressing stuff.
As much as I really hate him, fucking the song "Life's Gonna Suck When You Grow Up and Then You're Gonna Die."
And then you're gonna die. I have something to say at the beginning of movie news that I forgot in my
Yeah.
intro.
Let's do it.
I feel like, I feel that more and more every day.
You can karaoke it for us.
Actually, I think it's more like life's gonna suck. You'll never grow up,
Yeah.
and then you die.
I fully refuse to grow up.
I mean, that's the problem with our generation. We were told we don't want to grow up by a giraffe, and we never did.
Hey, I was told by Peter
And then that
Pan.
giraffe is now
And
dead.
the giraffe died.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good to go?
Yeah, no, once I figure it's way over here.
There it is.
I'm doing everything left-handed. It's fucking hard to do.
If you want to donate to the show, we really want a stream box.
Yeah,
To make our
Streambox would
lives
be nice.
be easier.
And maybe
click,
a left-handed
click
mouse.
like 2 buttons.
Yeah, please.
That's because still, I'm still not left-handed. Like,
Yeah.
it's still going to be a
It
problem.
would
with you
just
doing
be a
anything.
backwards mouse that
Yeah.
would confuse anyone who put their right hand on it.
Level 3 entertainment news.
Hey, adventurers, welcome back to the show. Before we get started on entertainment news, Hector wants to butt in and talk about something.
I went to see Overlord on Friday.
Oh, did you?
What is
Damn,
it?
I
What
want
is
to see
Overlord?
that.
Overlord is a movie
Produced by J.J. Abrams.
Produced by J.J. Abrams. It is a Bad Robot production, so already you get a sense of the kind of quality you're looking at. It is a World War II movie that, think like Fury, think Saving Private Ryan, very intense type of World War II movie that at one point, very suddenly, just nosedives into horror. And it's fucking
There are monster zombie
awesome.
things.
And it's not like riveting or like super like hardcore or classy like a Hill House horror. It is balls to the wall, ultra violence, ultra gore, monster horror, and it was somehow still tasteful, and it was fucking awesome, and it has Fitz from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
And
I'm sold already.
Yeah,
so-
no, this movie was amazing. Go fucking watch it. Watch it in theaters. It really does deserve it.
This is the one like movie that when I saw the first trailer, I was like, I need to fucking see this. This is
And
fucking amazing.
that
And my
actually-
personal belief, it's actually going to be tied into the Cloverfield universe.
Yeah, there were rumors about that, and I saw the trailer by accident while watching another movie. It was for Halloween. I was watching Halloween, and they played a trailer for Overlord. I was like, "Fucking next weekend, absolutely."
That actually brings me to another point that's actually not in our entertainment news, but they were doing the ratings for various shows, right? The Nelson ratings is what they're called.
Yes, it
Yeah, the thing that literally makes no sense in this day and age
Sure.
because streaming is a
But,
thing.
right. But by the numbers, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually has more people watching it than any of the Netflix Marvel shows.
I can believe that. I mean, it's ABC, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the obvious point
Right.
for it, but I mean, still.
I mean, we can't have a quality conversation because we know where that lands. But at the same time, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not a bad show. I've
No.
watched every season of
It has
it.
gotten a lot
I've
better.
enjoyed.
I gave up so long ago.
I enjoyed a good portion of it, a good enough portion that I'm gonna watch the next season.
Yeah. And, it's really sad because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., much like The Walking Dead, is one of those shows that managed to kind of come back around.
Yeah, for real.
And so,
it started back.
like right now, I have been watching The Walking Dead, and it's been really good. The
Awesome.
problem with it is that I can't recommend it to anybody because you have to go through like 4 seasons of shit for it to get good again. And you're just like, I don't want to make anybody
I don't
suffer
want to.
that
I don't
way.
want to Shawshank Redemption crawl to a fucking mile of shit to come out on the other side where there's rain pouring down on
Right,
me.
right.
Like just because.
But
I
that's
get
where we're at,
clean
like-
because the shit's. But I have to go through a mile of shit first.
And that's the thing about Walking Dead is it takes such a horrible turn because the first season of Walking Dead until maybe the last 2 episodes is glorious and it feels exactly like the comic. It feels like everything we wanted from The Walking Dead.
That was Frank Turnabout, like
Right.
just like knocking out of the
then,
fucking park.
and then the end of the season died, and then season 2 flopped around like a fucking fish, just breakdancing on a carpet for an entire season,
Some
and
things
then
changed behind the scenes.
breathed its last breath and died, and then it was resurrected, and then it was good for a while. But then that's pretty much where I stopped.
Yeah.
And
then-
It's really like the Lazarus of dead fish.
It
though.
really
It
is.
comes back and then just dies
it just
again.
jumped right into the bowl, kept swimming, jumped out again.
So basically, it's like the fish, like you catch the fish, and then it like dies on the side. But then you do that deep fry like meal to it, where like it comes out and it's still like breathing, and it's like looking at you, and you're like, okay, I know you're still breathing, and I'm going to eat you. You've been deep fried, and I'm gonna fucking put you in my
dark,
mouth.
dude. What fucking fish are you eating? Who did the ortolan of fish for you at some point in your life?
It's a Chinese dish.
Show us on the doll where they touched you, Tony. This has gotten a bit weird.
It's seriously, it's a Chinese dish. I can't remember the name of it, but it's seriously, it's a live deep fried fish, and it's like been like skinned, but it's still alive, and it comes out and it's still breathing, and it looks at you.
If
and
Anthony Bourdain didn't tell me about this, I don't believe it.
Yeah, I was
exists.
gonna say
this is legit a thing. This is legit
All
a
right,
thing.
let's jump into entertainment news.
All right.
The first bit of entertainment news, super happy to hear about this. Of course, we talked about it earlier in the show, and that is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is getting a Christmas episode.
Yes.
Which is fantastic because we're not getting a Doctor Who Christmas special this year.
You know what? I started watching this season of Doctor Who, and I fell asleep
Yeah, I was
because
gonna say.
I put it on really late at night.
No.
And I'm hating myself because I haven't been watching Doctor Who, because there's a new Doctor, there's a whole new storyline, a whole new
Everybody's
thing.
saying it's very good.
I hope
and,
it's really good.
and I enjoyed that.
It actually
hell.
has some of the best ratings of the Doctor Who's had in a long time.
Yeah, no, like
Awesome.
the 45 minutes of that hour that I remember watching was amazing. I was like, this is fucking cool as shit. And then I passed out watching it because I just couldn't stay up anymore. And I've been like trying to like save up all the episodes of Doctor Who, so I just have like Doctor Who Day.
That's how you end up with 45 seasons to catch up on, because there's
see,
a
this-
lot of Doctor Who, my friend.
No, this is the great thing about it, because I'm caught up and I have only new
I
seasons to
want to
go
say
with.
like the biggest Whovians I've ever met, like the Doctor Who people are like, watch it when you can, if you can, because there will always be more Doctor Who.
See, that's the thing is like, so I save my Christmas episodes of Doctor Who to watch like a month before the new season, so like I get to have like a Christmas in the summer kind of thing. This is a while ago. They
Yeah,
stopped doing it.
that's fair.
Obviously, now we don't get a fucking Christmas episode.
No,
Yeah,
they're,
that's
doing a
super
new,
bummer.
they're doing a New Year's
Oh, you know
episode.
what I would love this year?
Okay, fuck them. They're like, oh, we're not doing a Christmas episode. We're gonna do it 2 weeks later.
Okay, so the thing about that...
Fuck that.
That
But
accent
still-
made me that like, I know it's about white people, but it still sounded racist.
The writers came out and said they actually felt like they've exhausted doing Christmas episodes. And figuring
I'm
out-
happy that they're not doing any more Santa Claus bullshit. Let's do some fucking New Year's. Fine. It's a holiday special. They don't have to fucking call it a Christmas special. It's a fucking holiday special.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but we are getting a Sabrina Christmas episode,
And I love that.
And I haven't finished Sabrina yet, but I will be by the time this comes out, and I could not be more excited about this.
Oh yeah.
Also, like, what dark fucked up shit is Sabrina getting?
And,
Like, is
and
Krampus
that's
gonna
what
show
I
up?
can't wait for. I cannot wait for because the show really does lend it has that Halloween feeling. It really does lend itself to the whimsical nature of holidays, at the same time being about fucking Satan and having like little girls slitting other little girls' throats and all kinds of other crazy shit. And I can't wait for them to take Christmas and just like fuck it right in the butt.
All right, so the next thing we're going to be talking about, I'm really curious about Tony's opinions about this. It was announced this week that Legendary Entertainment is going to be creating a Pacific Rim animated series that's going to be brought to Netflix.
Well, this is a two-part thing because this is actually for me and Hector.
Yeah.
It's true. The other part of this is that there is going to be an Altered Carbon animated series.
Interesting.
There are both of these things. They said they take place within the universe of Altered Carbon and Pacific Rim.
Okay.
They're both going to be animated in a
Okay.
continuation of the stories that we already...
Okay.
Well, and Mike, for you, have one very good season. Me and I
Yes.
have one very good movie and a... Well, they made a second one.
We don't talk about the second one.
They made it.
We don't. Oh God, that movie. Was
It really...
bad.
All right, so I believe the way I said it whenever I watched that film was... It feels like somebody explained Pacific Rim to somebody that was a really big fanboy of it to somebody else, and then they made their version of that movie, and it had nothing to do with it, but
they
it was
weren't-
supposed to be the same thing.
And they weren't trying very hard.
Yeah, and they really didn't.
Yeah,
say it.
Pacific Rim 2. Don't watch
We
that.
have two animated
don't.
series. that
Watch
are-
Altered Carbon.
Right.
Yes,
So we-
watch Altered Carbon.
got-
Watch Pacific Rim.
Whoa, yeah.
But what are y'all's opinions about these animated series?
Okay, so if the writing is good on Pacific Rim, I will be incredibly
Yeah,
happy.
I'm worried because
If they can
of
give me-
the sequel.
Right, but I mean, I don't think anyone with a sequel involved with a sequel will ever work again, so I think we're okay. But as far as an animated series goes, I love animated series. Pretty much about anything. We just got a really fucking good Castlevania one.
Yeah, if they go down the route that they did with Castlevania,
Mm-hmm.
and they make it with a reverence to the original work and a continuation of it,
Mm-hmm.
but also saying, yeah, a bunch of this bullshit we don't fucking need. That's what I want out of both of these properties.
Well, I'm far more excited about the Pacific Rim one. When I think about an Altered Carbon animated series, I don't know what animating it is going to add to anything. It's super expensive to render a bunch of robots. Super expensive to
Well, I
make
was
them
gonna
fight
say,
giant CG
They can
monsters.
do more Ghost in the Shelly crap that you're just
Right.
like, okay, morphing between faces and all
Yeah.
this other
And there
things
was a
way
lot-
easier to animate than is the CGI.
Sure, but there was a lot of really good CG in Altered Carbon, but it was nothing on the scale of fucking like robot jocks or whatever you would call Pacific Rim.
First off, that's the movie that I've been wanting to remake for fucking ages.
Okay, Robot Jocks is getting played at the Draft House this month. You should check it out.
I need tickets for this,
Mm-hmm.
like now. I love Robot Jock,
So
dude.
I'm-
It got me.
I'm
like, I was a
actually-
kid. It's like I love Transformers. This is about giant robots beating the shit out of each other, but there's a person inside.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering if they're going to be doing this animated series for Altered Carbon as a replacement for filming another season of Altered Carbon.
And see, and that's
I
the
think
part that
so.
I hate the most because that is probably true, if not very probable.
I think it's gonna be
And-
way cheaper for them to animate it. Than
Oh
it is
yeah,
to
well,
film
but I
that.
mean, I loved the actors and I love what they did with the show. I just want more of that. And you know what? I'm not even super sure I want more of that because it really did complete the story. I would like more stories in the universe, which is
Right.
probably what this animated
the
series
thing is, like, I never read the books.
it was really well done.
And I didn't want to read the books. I was like, oh, we'll just get more of it as Netflix puts it out.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything for myself. So, but now I'm going to get the animated version. I'm like, okay, is it a continuation of the same story from the books, or is it different? And like, I need a little bit more information about the Altered Carbon one. Whereas Pacific Rim, I'm like, as long as it's better than the second movie, I don't really give a fuck.
yeah, I know what I want, and I hope
I
get
just
it.
want giant robots fighting giant aliens, and also that Charlie Day not
Yeah.
be the villain for ridiculous reasons because his brain got taken over by a fucking alien monster. And
I don't even
I'm literally
remember
ruining
that.
the plot line of the second movie, but it's fucking awful.
Yeah, don't watch that movie.
All right, so with that in mind, I think these are both good ideas.
Yeah.
It is kind of sad that Altered Carbon, if it gets pushed to just being animated, because I heard the production value was so good on the original series.
It was
like-
so good. You should absolutely watch it.
Yeah, it is on my to-do list. All right, so last month was the month of horror. We talked a lot about a lot of great horror concepts. One of the things we talked about at the very end was what we were looking forward to in upcoming horror. And one of the things that we talked about is the fact that so many great writers and directors of horror are coming out that aren't old white dudes.
Yeah.
Right, that was a huge deal. That's why we get things like Get Out. We get to experience things like that. We have people that are now able to tell great horror stories that are based in their reality, right?
Right.
Okay,
Either culturally or spiritually or anything like
And
that.
I mean, if you, that's what was so great about Get Out is that the entire country really got to witness what's scary to a black person,
Right.
And I mean, knowing that, having that kind of lens and that kind of empathy speaks to everyone.
Right. So there is an upcoming movie that was announced this week called Moon Shadow. And it is a LGBTQ horror film that is specifically based around what it is like to be an LGBTQ person and go through conversion therapy.
That sounds horrifying.
Like, your parents throw you into conversion therapy to say, no, you're a straight white dude or white girl or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And go find Jesus and get right with God because you're an abomination.
See, literally, I might like to watch this week as a drama about that same subject.
Oh yeah, I have the same
So,
one.
yeah.
Miseducation of Cameron Post.
Yeah, that's I couldn't remember the name of it. I was
Yeah.
like, there's a movie that's the same plot line, but with a lot less not the horror part of
Right.
it.
And so this is supposed to be like what happens at this conversion camp, and it is going to be it's going to have horror elements to it. They didn't say specifically there's going to have supernatural elements. It could be simply a perception of how you view the people at the camp or something like that. But this is really all about kind of a lot of the struggles that are going on within the trans community right now. It's really trying to put a face to a lot of the fears, especially with modern America being where it is. This sounds like not only kind of super timely, but also it sounds like it's going to be very disturbing.
It sounds necessary. We need this.
Oh, yeah.
We need this to
It does
exist.
sound disturbing. The when you really get into like the research on conversion therapy stuff, especially the gay stuff, where a lot of the more like the bigger like gay conversion therapy camps were exposed, and you got real insight into the type of therapy that they would do. I used air quotes, radio.
Yeah, anything relating to the word therapy and what's actually going on here are two separate things.
It's all so it's so weird, and like, why do you think this would help? I read something about like they thought that these men just never formed healthy relationships with other men, so they'd like sit two men down together and have them massage each other's shoulders for like hours on end until they weren't aroused by it. And I mean, what? How is this helping anyone?
That's not how anything
Please
works.
stop all of this.
Right.
Everybody
Yeah, and-
knows a back rub turns into a blowjob. Like,
Like that's the rule.
So I am so on board and fascinated by this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, as we were just talking about these horror stories that can now be told because non-straight old white dudes are no longer making horror. We get to go into these things like conversion therapy and really explore these darker sides of the world and talk about these things that maybe some people aren't willing to talk about, but they're willing to watch a 2-hour movie about.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's, again, we're going back to October all over again, but that's one of the beauties of horror.
Can we just stay in October? October was a better
I was gonna
time.
say fall's my favorite like season anyway.
And now we're in winter and I don't like it.
But I mean, this whole concept of being able to go into and explore aspects of our society that maybe you and I would not normally think about.
Yeah.
And seeing how horrific it is through the lens of a film. It's so moving and impactful. Even if it's in a horror movie form, sometimes that's the genre that you need to go with to really drive home the point.
Well, the horror will really put you in someone's shoes. One of my absolute favorite, actually, right now, YouTube channel is exactly for that reason. It's because it's such an incredibly different point of view from mine that I can't take my eyes off it. And if you give me a horror movie in that context, I can't wait.
Yeah. All right, that's everything that we have for entertainment news this week. We're going to take a small break. When we come back, we'll be going into our final segment, the epilogue.
I'm so tired of that fucking dishwasher. I've been hearing it's all over this show.
I'm sorry. If it wasn't absolutely necessary
Yeah,
to
no,
run
I know
it,
it's necessary. The thing is, like, I know if you turned it on, we actually really need to do the dishes, but it's more like just like I'm gonna fucking kill the goddamn thing because there's no way I can fix it in the audio.
Unfortunately, we are out of plates, and I'm making tacos tonight.
Yeah.
so.
We're having tacos tonight?
Hey, I was trying to cover it up with my knuckle cracking, which I never
I
stopped
was just
doing.
trying to
like-
do it with my fapping under the table.
Oh, well, yeah. No, that's what they all think it is. No
Yeah.
one knows that I cracked my knuckles. Everyone knows you fap.
Everybody's trying to make noises that shouldn't be on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it with when I move this around. Like,
You
it
think
makes
this
it a
is
little-
annoying? You
All
should
right,
go
so
see a movie
we're
with
about
me
to
and
talk
sit
about
next to me.
Stan Lee. Does anybody need to get drinks or anything? Because we're going to be...
I just started drinking this one, so I'm good for the moment.
All right.
Okay.
You can grab one.
yeah,
do
no,
we need,
do you wanna
do we
go
need
watch
whiskey?
Rewatch
What do
Dogs?
we want to do? I mean, that was kind of
We
the
can just
point.
go do a shot. Let's do a,
No, well, it was more of just like a cheers sort of thing. I thought, like for the stream and everything, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it on air, like while we're
Sure.
talking about
Yeah.
it.
That's fine.
Cool.
The
As
shot
long as
glass
I'm not
are
getting
above
up.
the microwave.
Right on.
You're the one getting up.
I am the one getting up. Goddamn
You're also the Hector and I are not tall as you. Like, motherfucker, like getting those shot glasses. No, they're above the microwave.
Oh well, don't make me. I mean, I'll just get us regular glasses and fill them up. Don't threaten me with a good
You're the one that's drive home. I mean, you always take an Uber or a Lyft or.
Oh, this one's a boot.
Yeah, that's my boot glass.
All right, I only have 2 so far.
There should be like 5 of them up
Oh
there.
no, I'm sure there's more. Okay, that's definitely a double.
Is the one with a handle?
No.
No, there's a no, there's a shot glass that has a little handle. It makes it look like a pint
That's
glass.
adorable. That one says St. Louis on it. Oh, here we go. There's a normal one. Yeah, this shot glass is fucking enormous.
Yeah, can you get like regular shot glass? I mean,
Well, one's a boot, and that
we're
one's
going
a
with
boot.
boots. All right, so we're doing boots because
Yeah.
that's the first thing you could reach. Okay.
Does he need help? 'Cause
You
he's tiny.
might want to go get if you want different shot glasses that aren't boots.
No. There's one boot. You get the boot.
Oh, I get the boot.
The other
Yeah.
2 are regular shot glasses.
Okay.
All right, let's strap in and do this. This is gonna get. It's gonna be so uplifting and happy, and we're gonna be so excited talking about this.
All right. So
There we go.
here you are, stream.
Here, I'll go ahead and just take care of this. This is great radio.
It's great radio. Just so you know, Twitch. You can drink on stream, right? Yeah, of course you can. I watch.
Okay, awesome. So those tents are going to be donated.
I watch Cook Carnage do it all the time.
Yeah, those.
Oh yeah.
those
The tents. So are they actual tents? I thought
Yeah,
you
no,
were
they're
being
actual
facetious.
tents. No, they're actual tents.
It's not like a paper with like a lantern in it. Or
No,
anything?
dude, they're straight up. They're made by like whatever company. They're
It's like an REI camping tent.
yeah.
Huh.
It's so. It, I think I got an Instagram post about it.
All right.
So they are going to be donated, and it's supposed to be. I'm not reading about the pretentious art aspect of it. That's a lot.
All right.
Okay.
So I don't knock you over.
There we go.
By the way, oh god, I can already feel this hurting.
Hey, that is a nice rye bourbon.
No,
right
it
there.
is. It is. I enjoy it, but my body, much like whenever I want to like.
It'll relax you. It'll wash
It's much
over
like
you.
when I want to like take mushrooms or something. My body means like, you don't want to do that.
Oh, don't
We've
take
done that."
mushrooms. Oh man, I don't
But
have
my
the energy
body,
for
my
that
body's
anymore.
doing the same thing with like tequila and whiskey, and I was like, because I was thinking about going on a vodka diet where
Oh,
I don't
okay.
drink beer anymore and I don't eat, I just drink vodka.
Okay, when they say
been
that you
there.
go on the potato diet, they don't mean vodka.
Hey, you know what?
But vodka's made out of potatoes.
It was
so
a
it's fine.
potato.
All
I
right.
know. I was gonna go on the like. Well, if clear liquor has like the least number of calories out of anything,
Mm-hmm.
so if I go with that and then I eat like a sandwich or maybe like just one piece of bread a day, I'll lose weight.
You
and
will?
Then, and then I'll.
Or you could just exercise like normal people.
Motherfucker, dude, I walk like 6 miles a day already. All right, like I'm exercising
Okay,
for a job.
Cut beer out, and you're fine.
Why the fuck did you not just listen to what the fuck I just said,
He
motherfucker?
was
Like,
like, I'm gonna cut beer out. I'm drinking vodka, like a rich woman on a diet.
I'm gonna get fucking skinny vodka. That's a brand, bitch.
Oh, that's so sad. It's just vodka. You could get fucking.
Yeah, but then I can also get Skinny Cow fucking ice cream.
No,
and I can
just
I can get Skinny Pop popcorn and
So Taka is the vodka you get at literally any store, and it costs literally like $20 a handle. I'm talking like a
Oh.
half gallon, and you know what? It's fine.
I-
You can mix it with anything.
I think he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna mix it with like orange juice.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna do.
not
Just
if
get
you're
the-
not if you're
Alright.
counting carbs. You're not.
Are you gonna do this, gents?
Orange juice is good for you.
Well, I thought we would do it on stream. We could do it now. We can do 2.
This is our moment of silence. Ooh, we should get shot glasses made that say "moment of silence."
Aw, that'd be really cute.
All right, we can hold on to it.
We could sell them.
Alright.
We could sell them in our store. That
Let's
I
jump
never
in and
made.
do this.
Yeah. We can like we'll do your introduction, and you'll say like, what do you guys have to? Do you have any Stanley stories? Do you have anything? But right before that, we'll do like a here's the man sort of thing.
I've got a good spot for it.
Cool.
I turned my fucking volume down. Why am I getting fucking messages?
Well,
Like, I guess when I
there's
send
a
a
little
fucking
thing
text.
at the top, but you just click it, and you
Yeah, the
never
do
get
not
any,
disturb
and you
thing.
get no sound ever.
Yeah, do not disturb.
There
it
you
does
go.
that. I
Done.
moved mine around though because I wanted a flashlight to be up there.
Just hit record. Love of God.
I'm gonna hit record, then I'm gonna quit record.
Okay.
Epilogue.
Hey, adventurers, welcome back to the show. This week, we are going to be talking about the passing of Stan Lee. Normally, we don't really spend a lot of time when it comes to celebrity death. Personally, I don't really focus too much on celebrity deaths when they happen. It sucks. We'll sometimes mention it in passing. But this week, I feel like Stan Lee was such an icon to the nerd world that it was important for us to really take a minute and really kind of celebrate the man himself. I know for me personally, I don't think that I would be sitting in this chair talking into this microphone discussing the things that I do on a weekly basis with all of you if it wasn't for Stan Lee.
I actually can guarantee that we wouldn't be.
Yeah.
We started talking about this just before the Marvel universe started existing. This is going into the way, way back machine when we were sitting we hadn't seen each other in a couple of years.
2008, 2007.
And
Oh, God,
we were
this
at
was-
a bar
this was like
and we were
early 2000s.
discussing the upcoming Iron Man movie, and it hadn't been released yet. And everybody else was listening to us, and we was like, "Why don't you just record this?" And then a few years later, we did. We literally would not have this show had one of his creations not come to film.
true.
It literally. I mean, that's part of the story, but that's
Yeah, that is a big part of it. There's a single picture that exists of the two of us at the bar that night, and it
We
is
just going like
it's
this,
literally
you
like,
doing that.
It's like the inception of our podcast. And somebody took a picture of us while we were talking about
That's
this.
awesome.
So Stanley Martin Lieber, was born on December 28th, 1922. He's known as one of the greatest comic book writers of all time. Obviously, he did not found Marvel, but he was basically the icon of Marvel. He actually worked for them back when they were they were called Timely Studios, I believe the name of it.
Timely
and
Comics.
he got his start working on Captain America back then.
yes. And also this is Veterans Day.
It is Veterans Day.
He also was in World War II. As what his position was actually listed as playwright, because he was already working at Timely Comics, and then World War II happened, and he signed on to join the army. And they were like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Well, I write." And he's like, "Well, you're going to write a bunch of scripts for army videos and do all this writing stuff." So he was in World War II, and
No wonder they had him work on Captain America.
And of course, he worked with Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko to really create some of the most iconic characters of all time: Spider-Man, the Hulk, Doctor Strange, the Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Black Panther, the X-Men, Iron Man. I mean, we could go down the list. But it wasn't just that, because what he contributed to comic books is so much more than any of these individual things, except for the Fantastic Four. And that's what I'm going to get into here, because there's a very important story that happened in Stan Lee's life. And that is that he was actually about to leave Timely Comics. I believe it was Marvel Comics by that point, I want to say. And he was done. He was in his 40s. He was a comic book writer. He felt that he was going to get no respect as a comic book writer. He was, he was
how
done.
those were played out. They were
Yeah.
something
Right.
that was a throwaway industry.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the 1950s, and specifically in that era, this is when the Comics Code regulations came down. This is when the big rise against EC Comics and the horror comics happened. They made the Comics Code and said everything has to be clean. It has to be, for the kids. You can't
Family friendly.
family friendly. All this.
Bunch of Puritan bullshit.
Right, and he was
Yeah.
just like, I'm done. I can't tell stories that I want to tell. I can't be respected as a comic book writer by my friends, basically.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave. And this is one of the legends of the comic book industry, but his wife went to him and said, if you're going to leave anyway, why don't you write one story for yourself? He's like, what do you mean? She said, write whatever you want. Just get them to publish one comic that's just for you, and then you can walk out afterwards. And at the time, all of the superheroes that existed were of the quote-unquote Superman mold, right? Everybody, they were patriotic. They were, larger than life. They were not. They were not us, right?
Yeah, they weren't grounded in our
Right.
our reality. And I say
exactly.
reality, maybe like our mental process.
Yeah.
Right. And so Stan Lee said, all right, I'll write one story for myself. And this is where he wrote the Fantastic Four, because he wanted a family story in which every character was relatable in some way, that all of them had flaws and seemed very human no matter how extravagant their superpowers were. That moment changed superhero comics forever. Because no longer did we have to look at somebody like Superman, who is alien and powerful, and we had trouble relating to him. We had a family that fights. You know, he went on to do things like Spider-Man, where it's just a troubled kid in high school, and that's something that so many people could relate to.
A kid feeling weird about the changes in his body.
Yeah.
Like, that's way easier to relate whenever you're
Right?
No kidding,
going through
right?
puberty.
You talk about things like the X-Men, where literally every character in that is an outcast that has gone under some kind of prejudice. Stan Lee, in his writing, brought a human element to comic books that really didn't exist beforehand. Yeah, Batman had his origin story where his parents were shot, but really, those comics until that point, Batman's parents being shot was a throwaway. Really, it was a monster of the week. He'd show up and, like, something wacky would happen with Batman. Stan Lee not only created human characters that we could relate to, but also created the first extended universe when it came to comics.
Yeah.
Yes, the DC comics all existed in the same universe, and once in a while they would cross over, but Stan Lee actually had a rule that if you were writing in Marvel Comics, because it all took place in New York where everybody knew where everything was, it all had to relate. Tony Stark could go over to the Fantastic Four's mansion, or to their tower, and hang out with them and have drinks. Right, which he shouldn't do. He's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Do that.
But
At the time, he wasn't yet.
Right.
Well, or he was, and he just
didn't
hadn't
know.
decided to stop yet.
Right. But it was an edict from on high for Stan Lee that said, if we're going to have all these superheroes in an area, they need to always act and react as if they are in the same universe and be beholden to each other. And that is that core concept. These two elements of A, creating superheroes that are relatable and seem like us, and B, creating a universe that is
Grounded in our reality.
It's grounded in reality, lived in, and that the actions of all these superheroes have repercussions.
Yeah.
Are so huge.
And that's how you get heroes with burrows. It's like Hell's Kitchen, or like Luke Cage hangs out in Harlem, and you have the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, and so on and so forth. They all had to be grounded in reality, and that's what made Marvel so different from DC in the first place. I mean,
Metropolis is
Metropolis,
kind of this city of the future.
Yeah, and Gotham
And
City
Gotham
was just
is
like a crime-ridden city that everyone knows is Chicago.
Yeah,
Right,
but these unknown cities to us, we don't know where the hell is Star City.
Right.
Where the hell is Metropolis?
And how
Apparently
different
it's
would
in the
it
middle
be?
of Kansas because it's like right next to fucking Smallville. But that
think
doesn't
about
make
how
any sense.
Think about how different all of the lore and everyone's idea about Batman would be if Batman was just from Chicago.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it'd be insane.
But by the way, I'm not shitting on DC because the concepts of Gotham and Metropolis, those are, when you say those words, everybody can picture those cities in their heads.
No, that's amazing. They created a world that
Yeah.
exists within ours but isn't ours.
Right.
And that's great if you're a fan of that. But for me, I love Marvel more than DC because it is our world.
Yeah.
It is. All right, so going back into the golden age of comic books, whenever Stan Lee was getting his first start, and all the artists lived and worked in New York. And this worked for DC and Marvel. All the artists drew what they saw around them. You can literally take the original artwork, go to that corner and go, that's still the same building with the same street light, with the same everything. The names and the businesses will change, but it's the same shit.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. I can literally go to New York and go, okay, this panel in this comic book at this angle, oh, it's exactly this shot.
They drew the world outside
They drew
their
the
window.
world that they saw every single day.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what did Stan Lee bring to the world? God, the list is so huge. I'm going to try and narrow this down. When the Comics Code came up and they were saying we need to start censoring everything, he was one of the first people to speak out against it. In fact, there's a really great story where he was contacted by the government. I forget what division it was in the government, saying, could you write a comic that it was an anti-drug comic?
Yeah.
And that way we can promote anti-drug sentiment within things that
Kids read comics, let's
right.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he wrote a story in which I believe Harry Osborn was hooked on drugs.
Okay.
And I may be telling the story wrong because I don't have it all in my notes. But basically, Spider-Man is trying to save him, saying drugs are bad. And when presented to the same board that said, write this comic, they said, well, you can't publish that. And he said, why? He goes, because there's drugs usage in the comic.
But
How am I supposed to
Right.
They're kids. They're not
Yeah,
gonna
no, it's like
understand.
you can see the gears like our heads and everyone else is like starting to like to grind all like. But that's not. But you just.
Right.
Oh, now you're hurting
And
my
so-
head.
Right, right, so you're writing something for children. It's not like I can't use a metaphor. They're children. I have to say don't do drugs.
Right.
I can't be like, hey kids, don't do
Jingle jangle, which
jingle
is-
jangle,
Oh,
wink.
I hate that about
And
fucking
everyone's
Riverdale.
like, what is that? I'm
But-
gonna go do some cocaine while I think about it.
But Stan Lee went ahead and published that comic anyway.
Awesome.
He was just like, fuck the police. Literally, fuck the
Fuck
police.
the police.
Like, I'm going to do this. Stan Lee was very much about social topics. Of course, you had all the civil rights movement stuff that was going on at the time.
Yeah.
And he was very, very involved in that. There's a lot of quotes that have been going around Facebook and stuff today about actual things that he said about racism back then that it's almost more relevant now than it was back in
it's
the...
kinda
Which is
scary.
super sad.
Yeah, in fact, one of the quotes is, racism and bigotry are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. But unlike a team of costume supervillains, they can't be halted with a punch in the snoot. That was a word he used.
Snoot. Snoot was a word when he wrote that. That's how old this is.
Or
We
as,
still say Snoot.
Please stop being racist.
or a zap from a ray gun. The only way to destroy them, the racists is the parentheses there, is to expose them and reveal them for the insidious evil that they really are.
Okay, and this was from many.
This is
This is
50
not
years ago he wrote
not
this.
now.
Yeah.
Stanley wrote this about racism, and his statements about racism are more relevant now than they were. Well, no, they were pretty fucking
were
relevant.
pretty
at the
fucking
very relevant
time.
then. Very
but,
relevant.
But we've come full circle with this. where-
They really do feel relevant now because we feel like we're going backwards.
yeah. I mean,
One of my favorite things about Stan Lee, he's always like, "Yeah, always punch Nazis," and I'm like, still to this day, I'm like, "Yeah, let's always punch Nazis. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you should do."
Yeah.
I need to have a Captain America punching a Nazi just like framed like as big as a
A real life,
portrait
like, yeah,
over a mantelpiece.
There
You
you
know,
go.
You need a real life Captain America
I
size
need
picture.
a fireplace to hang it over.
but kind of bringing all of this in together when we talk about the creations of Stan Lee, everything is still rooted in the normal in our society, right? Peter Parker's still at the end of the day a nerd.
College student or
Dare-
just
yeah.
working a low end job.
Daredevil has a disability. The Hulk is really about anger issues. Everything had a focus to it that was all about trying to overcome personal struggles. And that's why those characters always felt more human to us than looking at something like The Flash or looking at something like Superman. There's so many people out there, especially people that are within like the LGBTQ community,
Marginalized people.
like that go to the X-Men and say like, this is my current struggle. The X-Men is my current struggle.
Yeah.
So people originally used, and this is one of the most brilliant parts about X-Men is you can fit them with anything. But people,
Yeah,
found
no,
them-
they fit the oppressed. That
Yeah.
is the point of that is the great thing with the X-Men. Are you feeling oppressed? You have some Wolverine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an X-Men. There's an
Bet you
X-Men
wish you had
for
There's
claws.
X-Men for you.
Right.
Imagine if you had claws. Wouldn't that be sweet? You oppressed person, because here's a comic about someone who gets
Right.
oppressed and then has claws.
Right. But that's the beauty of the X-Men is you can fit yourself, you can find yourself in all those. And I always talk about this on our podcast about how the X-Men are always whenever I fall out of comics, they're always let's get back in.
Yeah.
Like that's the X-Men for me because, like I didn't have a rough youth, but I did feel a little bit outside of my peer social circles at times, and the X-Men were kind of my good go-to for that. Like I feel a little out of place. They're a little out of place. I can relate to that, and we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for Stan Lee.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, like I'm not a guy who gets really beat up over celebrity deaths. Life happens. But God, every article that I was reading about Stan Lee today, I found myself like nearly on the edge of tears. I was even worried going into this epilogue because I was like, he influenced me in ways that I didn't even know I was influenced. Like you were talking earlier in the segment, Tony, like this podcast wouldn't really exist if it wasn't for us talking about the original Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
It all happens in that, and I didn't even put any I didn't have a perception of any of that until I started doing these notes. I was like, yeah, we're going to talk about Stan Lee this week, because it's really sad news. Stan Lee was such an important thing to nerd culture, and the more I was reading about his history and his past, and then thinking about my childhood growing up and like collecting Marvel cards and reading comics, I was like, God, he's almost had like a hand in almost every like little bit of my being growing up, and it just hurt my heart more and more to talk about it because he just was such an important person to this world. The amount of creativity and light that he brought to everything.
Today's been a really painful day. Like, so throughout the day, I've just been kind of like not think about this. When I first saw the news, I was like, I was at work doing my work thing, and I look at my phone and go, "Oh, fuck!" I mean, it was something we talked about a long time ago. When Stanley's wife passed, we were like, "Well,
Yeah.
Stanley's."
That was only a year ago, right?
Yeah, it was a little less than a year ago,
Yeah.
and we're like, "Well, he's past. He's in his 90s.
Yeah.
That's a lot already.
That's more years than any man can ask for.
And he
And-
loved her so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and normally it's either when you with someone for a very long time, you go generally around the same time as that
It
person.
does happen.
That's a common thing. It's called dying from heartbreak, and like that's not what I was going into. This was all day I've been on this verge of being like I'm okay, and then like something would just like set me off, and I'm like, fuck no, what the hell? Like my world is less bright right now.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
Exactly.
I've got a couple quotes from some people on Twitter that I'd like to go ahead and just read off. Neil Gaiman tweeted, "I was first interviewed for Stan Lee's obituary about 20 years ago. I was happy he defied the Reaper and carried on.
Nice.
With Stan gone, an era really does come to an end. He was the happy huckster that comics needed. He really did alliterate like that when you talked to him, by the way." Of course, Seth Rogen said, "Thank you, Stan Lee, for making people who feel different realize that they're special." Ryan Reynolds just said, "Damn, thanks for everything." Kevin Feige, of course, head of Marvel Studios, said that no one's had more of an impact on my career and everything that we do at Marvel Studios than Stan Lee. He leaves an extraordinary legacy that will outlive us all. Our thoughts are with his daughter, his family, and the millions of fans. And the last one that I have here is from Chris Evans, Captain America himself. "There will never be another Stan Lee. For decades, he provided both young and old with adventure, escape, comfort, kindness, inspiration, strength, friendship, and joy. He exuded love and kindness and will leave an indelible mark on so many, many lives. Excelsior." And so that kind of brings me to my next little point here that I want to talk about, which is when it comes to Stan Lee, not us personally, because that's the next question. What is Stan Lee's influence on the world? Comics, television, anything. Name it. Now's the time.
Well, one of the things, the biggest thing I can think of is something you already mentioned. It's fucking Kevin Feige. There would be no Kevin Feige without
There'd be
Stan
no
Lee.
billions of dollar film industry
For 10 years,
exists.
we've had a producer make the most successful films on the planet year after year for 10 years. No one has ever done that. We didn't have that with Peter Jackson and Lord of the Rings. That was enormous. We didn't have that with Michael Bay. We don't have that with anybody. Kevin Feige is the biggest name in Hollywood, in cinema, right now, period.
And will go down his history as the most profitable
producer
of movies ever. Yeah. Marvel Entertainment, Marvel comic books, now Disney has made more money than imaginable ever in this industry.
The reason that they are Disney now is because Disney didn't want to compete with Marvel Studios. So they bought them. Disney doesn't do that on a whim.
And this is an amazing comeback story because many years ago, back when Stan Lee was president of Marvel Comics went bankrupt. Nobody was reading comics.
Yeah.
He had to sell off the rights to all these films that we're now dealing with the fallout of.
We're still dealing with the fallout every day
of that choice because they had to find a
movie.
way to make money, and they said, "Fuck it, we can start selling off some of these rights, and we can start doing these other things to try to keep this company alive."
Right.
Stan Lee didn't do it single-handedly, but he was in charge of the company essentially to make Marvel comic books exist past the point where monetarily they should not have existed.
Right. So at least for the next several decades, you have the most successful film producer of all time who would have literally nothing if it wasn't for Stan Lee.
Think about the number of about the number of comic book writers and artists that got their start because they read a Stan Lee book.
Fucking like Spawn. We wouldn't have fucking Spawn. It wasn't for Spider-Man. Like literally, the two are tied hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like we think about that's just one instance of how big another character has become based on something that Stan Lee co-created.
Yeah, and in that same vein, and in the same vein as Kevin Feige, I mean, think about the comeback of Robert Downey Jr. Think about like how we wouldn't know who Chadwick Boseman is, and he's fucking amazing. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of already established stars in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but there are also a lot of people who are getting second chances, and a whole lot of other people who no one would have ever given this shot to. And now they're all household names because of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because of Stan Lee, which it would not exist without Stan Lee.
That is
period.
true. I mean, at some point, if Stan Lee hadn't taken the helm of Marvel Comics, none of this would have existed.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, he's been in charge of Marvel Comics
A very long time.
a very long time.
Long
he
enough
stepped
that
down
everyone,
quite a while ago.
long
but-
enough that everyone thinks he invented it. Everyone, look, when you ask anyone who doesn't,
if you say, "Hey,
who
who
hasn't
created Marvel Comics?" Stan Lee did.
Yeah,
And you're like,
anyone
well,
who hasn't watched
you're
a
wrong,
documentary
but-
is like, hey, who's the head of Marvel Comics? Oh, Stan Lee. Who's the boss right now? Probably Stan Lee. Who invented every Marvel character? Probably Stan Lee. I mean, that's the name you put next to it.
And he created
That
a
was very
mythology.
intentional.
What Stan Lee was very good at creating mythology about himself. So that was one of the faults I did want to bring up. That for a very long time he said he was the creator of a lot of these comic book characters.
Right.
He was the creator of Spider-Man. He was the creator of the Incredible Hulk. He was the creator of the Fantastic Four.
Right.
Because the artist got no recognition.
Right.
And
He did end up going back.
He
on
did
that.
go back on
Because
this.
and you know what? And remember that. Think about what a car looked like in 1922. Like, this guy has run the gamut of history throughout his life, and there was a time when you just didn't give credit to artists, and now
yeah, no,
the
you
fact
were
that
work
he-
for hire, and
the
you just,
fact that he
the thing.
backtracked and was like, "These people all deserve credit."
There were some
is
lawsuits
a big
involved to
thing.
make him get that
I'm
way.
sure they were, but I mean, the point is that like people could have dug in their heels, but. He had
was
a lot of
more
history to
progressive than
fight with, and he was always very progressive.
he was more progressive than a lot of just DC. DC the comic book company before it was part of Marvel was very much a fuck you. You don't own anything, whether you wrote it or drew it or anything. We own it. It's not yours.
Well, here's how.
Stanley was like I made it, and this other person drew some stuff.
I feel like I have an example
So,
about how
at least
progressive
he was
he
more
is,
on the creative control of things.
but I think it's going to bleed into your next question.
Yeah, so the next question really is, now that we've kind of thought globally, let's go back to thinking locally here. And what is Stan Lee's influence on us just as individuals?
Well, Hector, obviously, go first.
Well, I hadn't, because I was pretty sure you were going to ask, like, what are your best memories of Stan Lee or something like
It's
that.
a
And I
long
feel like that's
Same
where we
lines,
are.
yeah.
So when I have a really good one, but after this one, when I talk about how progressive he was, he did an episode of Entourage, right? Where he was Stan Lee at the head of Marvel Studios, and they were talking about the main character being Aquaman, right? That was the plot of this
Why would they be talking to
set
Stan
of
Lee?
Entourage. Because it's fun, and so they're talking to, because it's fictional Hollywood. That's what Entourage was. So here's the point: like, Stan Lee has incredibly tight creative control over how he's viewed, and the way that this was written is the main character of Entourage, and I'm totally forgetting his name right now, walks in and talks to Stan Lee, and they're talking about Marvel and making movies and stuff like that, and how he's an excellent young man. And his girlfriend at the time is Sasha Grey. Yes, that Sasha Grey, the porn star Sasha Grey, the most probably the most famous porn star on the planet. And he was dating her at the time. So they walk into the office, they talk to her for a while, and Stanley just keeps staring at her and like talking and like having a perfectly normal conversation, but he just kind of keeps giving her like the cock head and like the closed eyes.
They're
And
like
then
I know you from somewhere.
and then they leave, and the main character's like, he turns to Sasha Grey and he's like, he kept kind of looking at you. He's like, yeah, I know that look. He's wondering where he saw me from. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, no, he's totally seen my videos. And he totally let that happen. He let himself be, for all intents and
because
purposes,
he's also a dude who's like,
For all intents
yeah,
and
we all
purposes.
jerk off. Like, that's a thing.
right. And for all intents and purposes, he was the butt of that joke. But think about it. He was probably in his 80s when
Yeah.
that happened. And he was like, nah, that's hilarious.
He's like, I'm the old dude who watched porn.
Right.
Let's do it.
But I think my biggest one, the thing that
Nobody doesn't not watch porn.
yeah, literally the thing that got me into comic book characters. In my childhood, there was a Saturday morning cartoon about Iron Man. and it was
God.
actually really really
It was
fucking
the
cool.
Iron Man Fantastic Four Power Hour.
Yes, it was.
Oh,
and
it was so bad.
during that thing at the beginning and in between Iron Man and Fantastic Four, Stan Lee himself, the man, on live action camera, not animated at all, welcome true believers, and he would give like a little 30-second blurb about what Iron Man was going to run into today. Like it was the fucking 50s. It was the 90s.
It was the same
It
thing
was
that
not
they
a
did in the
radio
comic
play.
books. He was doing the
Right.
same thing. It's like hey, here's what happened, or here's what's going to happen next.
Right, and
just to catch you up on
Again,
it.
we're talking about the early 90s. It wasn't a fucking radio play. It didn't need to be there. It was a cartoon about Iron Man
They
with like a
literally
metal
turned a
intro.
comic book
It was
into a
cool as
cartoon.
shit. And he would sit there and he still gave the intro. And then he would give the between intro between Iron Man and Fantastic Four. And I loved it for that. And that's how, first of all, I found out who Stan Lee was. And second of all, this is the part where I compare him to Mr. Rogers. There's this whole thing where he, as an older gentleman, is really connecting with you as, for all intents and purposes, a kid. Because even if I was, 13 or 14, I might not have been a kid, air quotes, at the time. He spoke to my inner child as an adult, and that really meant something to me. Especially
Well,
considering the context of the
He
stories.
knew that kids read his comics, but when he did his Stan Lee columns, he didn't talk to kids like they were kids. He talked
Right.
to kids like they were adults.
Yeah, and that's what I always appreciated about it. And again, not to take the metaphor of Mr. Rogers too far, but it really did feel like at that age he had my number, and he knew what I was there for, and he knew how to get me excited about it, and he knew how to make me feel good about myself and understand the story he was trying to tell me in 30 seconds.
Right. He wasn't trying to dumb anything down
No,
for you. Right.
not
He
at
was
all.
just jump in and do it. What about you, Tony? Like, what's Stan
I,
Lee's influence
I
you?
remember saying many times that when I was a kid, I had a subscription to Spider-Man comics. That was, I was from a small town. I think we had like a comic book store, but it was kind of like one of those places that existed for like 2 years and then went away for 5. And it was whoever tried to make the business work because
Right.
it's a small town.
Yeah.
That's not thing that's really going to work in that area. So Marvel Comics, and I think DC, even still to this day, had the ability to just buy a comic. They send it to you, and that's what you get. And I had that as a kid. I don't know how I actually got this. Like I know it wasn't me that said I want to read Spider-Man because I had no fucking context of what Spider-Man was.
Right.
I saw some comic books or some of the cartoons from the 70s at some point and went, okay, and didn't care. At some point, somebody in my life was like, "You're getting a Spider-Man subscription," and I was like, "Okay, cool. I'm going to start reading comic books," and that's what I did. And I started reading comic books, and it was weirdly the beginning issues of the Carnage storyline within Spider-Man, which is one of the best fucking storylines out there, and that's what I started on, and that influenced the rest of my fucking life. And even to this day, like it's was starting to read the beginning of Spider-Man, which he co-created this teenage character. I was reading him like as a preteen, like I wasn't there yet, and the character was in his 20s, like Peter Parker 20s, and like
He was already a photographer, probably.
yeah, he was already a photographer. He was
Yeah.
already like past college and shit. And like I never actually read teenage Peter Parker when I was a teenager, but I understood that feeling out of place that Spider-Man had, and also this really cool dude that was basically made out of blood, like stabbing things, which I
Yeah.
thought was awesome. Not a Stan Lee creation, but he created the universe. So that was just a part of it. And then it gets into like the cartoons.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and Friends.
It was a really good Spider-Man Saturday morning cartoon, too.
There was. There have been many great ones, and that's what really got me.
X-Men, I mean, yeah, there's been a lot.
The X-Men, honestly, the 90s X-Men, I think was on Fox. Like we can all hear the
It
theme
was.
song in our head right
They did
now.
a 7 p.m. like Friday night whole thing for the Saturday morning X-Men cartoon when they were doing the Dark Phoenix saga. I'll never forget that because holy shit, what was going on Fox at the time where they had nothing to run on Friday night except for a really badass X-Men cartoon.
They probably had something really good, and then they canceled it.
Yeah, maybe, but it was like a 2-night event too. It was like the first hour Friday night, the second hour
And that's
Saturday night.
and that's amazing that like that a cartoon about X-Men
Mm-hmm.
got aired at a primetime slot. Against probably actually TGIF on ABC, so it was
Probably,
more
yeah.
like we're gonna get kids on here hopefully,
Yeah.
because the kids were watching that instead.
Yeah.
But it was honestly getting a subscription to Spider-Man has influenced my entire life. That everything that since then, my love of comic books, my love of movies and everything stems from that moment of going, this is cool as shit. Like, I can't quite process the thoughts because I had them a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I just remember going, I like this. I want more of this. And ever since then, I've always wanted more of that. And once I learned who Stan Lee was, once I started reading the action, because when I first started reading comics, I never gave a shit about the author writing the
No, they were
responses
named
in
at the bottom
back,
of your comic book.
and I
It
didn't
didn't
understand
matter.
what any of that was.
Yeah.
And then over time, I started seeing them and realizing who it was, and putting two and two together. I was like, oh shit, this information is actually important. These are things you should be reading. These are the people who make the things that I like.
Yeah.
And because they were just Saturday morning cartoons. They're just names that
of
float
course.
by, and
who
you
watched
go,
the credits to the Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles? Literally no one.
yeah, and who watched, for me, Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I didn't fucking know. And once I started realizing, like, oh, this is Stanley's the head of this, and then it was like, oh, and then I discovered like Stanley created this. I'm like, oh shit, that's even more important.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, Stanley created all these other things, and I'm like, oh, fuck me, like I didn't realize this influenced me so much. And quickly, one by one, that kind of snowballed downhill and led me to be a giant nerd who likes comic books way too much.
Yeah.
I really don't know where I could start with my memory or love of Stan Lee, to be honest, because he's been like this omnipresent thing in my life as far back as I can remember.
Yeah.
You know, I was that kid that bought Marvel trading cards growing up. I had all the X-Men cards. I don't even remember when I started reading comics. You know? I mean, that was I went down to like the corner store, and you know, my mom would get me a Mountain Dew and a comic book or something.
Right.
You know?
It's the first, it's the chicken or the egg thing. When you're that young, it's, I don't remember watching my first Ninja Turtles cartoon either,
Right. And so I feel like, I mean, there was probably some point in my life in which there wasn't comic books, but like my parents can tell you, like, some of my earliest, like, their memories of me was like crawling up walls at our house and acting like I was Spider-Man. And I had very minimal context for who Spider-Man was because like I wasn't really reading a bunch of comic books at that age, but he was already such an iconic figure in the social zeitgeist that it's like Superman. Like, right, you can tell somebody who's never read a comic book, describe Superman for me. And like, all right, I can tell you right now.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Spider-Man is. That is what the X-Men is for people. And so I had great stories like Spider-Man growing up. The X-Men were my bread and butter. They were my go-to. I cannot remember a point in my life in which the X-Men were not a big, huge presence in my life.
Yeah.
Having things like the 90s comics or the 90s animated series, all this stuff that was all part of Stan Lee's creation. Like, I don't know where to put a specific pin in this and say this is where Stan Lee's influence starts, because I feel like it's just been so permeated in my entire life that I'm like, I don't know. I guess I came out of the womb and I just made a Spider-Man joke.
Yeah.
Like, that's maybe how it happened.
And it really speaks to the quality of all of it, that it feels like it's always been there. Like, you don't know when it started, but you know that it was, a constant companion.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, I know that I keep talking about this, but like the fact that I keep going back to X-Men, it's my warm blanket of comics. Like, whenever I'm down or I'm feeling sad, or maybe I just want something to make me smile, I can grab an X-Men comic book and I instantly light up. And we would not have anything like that if it wasn't for Stan Lee.
Yeah.
So we've been running a little bit long about this. If you have any memories or anything you'd like to talk about in terms of your thoughts about Stan Lee, please, we are an open forum. I'm on Twitter all day, every day. Tony, where can they find us? Where can they write to us?
Facebook.com/The Surly Nerd. Like, share with your friends. As you said, Twitter, which is @The Surly Nerd. We got I think info@thesurlynerd.com is
working now.
Did I get it working now? Is it working?
Well, email us and we'll tell you if it works. if we see it.
Well, all right. So email us, then hit us up on Twitter that you emailed us, and then we'll tell you if it works.
Hey, I emailed you. All right, thanks. We'll look.
We'll look to make sure that I fixed it, because that was a giant pain in the ass that took me way too long to fix. We've got thesurlynerd.com is our website. There's articles to read and stuff. There's a donate button on there if you'd like to donate to the show. There is twitch.tv/The Surly Nerd. Like, share with your friends, 7:30 Central, when we do this. James has been doing some streaming on Saturdays as
Playing Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur.
Playing
I
Soul
almost said
Calibur.
Street Fighter Saturday.
Soul Calibur Saturday.
Soul Calibur Saturday. Okay, Fighting Game Saturdays.
Fighting Game Saturday
Fighting
is
Game
pretty
Friday makes more sense for
Yeah.
that one, but that's because I like alliteration. Speaking of alliteration, Stanley. Damn, like I'm still fucked up. Like I'm gonna be fucked up next
Don't-
week,
don't
man.
While,
forget-
while we were here on camera.
What we-
Don't
did we
forget
forget?
about Spotify.
Oh, we're on.
Holy shit! We
Oh,
are
fuck
on
yeah.
Spotify.
We're on
already.
Spotify.
That was another thing that I finished doing was getting us on Spotify.
Yeah. We're on Spotify.
It's only like a month and a half in the
Yeah,
making.
if you don't
Yeah.
feel like downloading our podcast and then like uploading it to your iPhone, just pop on
Just
Spotify.
just stream it.
the way that you
Yep.
normally do.
Or to irritate your friends when they're like, "Hey, I want to listen to something on Spotify." You're like, "Okay."
Just
I did-
throw
I-
on our podcast.
I
and
just
let
got a
them-
Spotify family plan this week.
yeah,
so,
and just
I mean,
let them listen to us say "dick" a lot.
exactly. Before we wrap everything up, we did pour a drink here, gentlemen, to Stanley.
To Stan Lee.
There'll never
Excelsior.
be another one like him. Thank you for sticking with us this week, adventurers.
Thank
I
you
know
very
this is
much.
a very sad episode, but he did bring a lot of light and joy into our lives, and there really won't be anyone like him. But the influence that he's had on everyone in this world is just, his impact cannot be understated.
And I'll say that if you think, if you're really down about it and you think, God, I'm going to miss Stan Lee, which we all will, just think about how much of your future is going to revolve around the things he already created. I mean, not just like next year, obviously, with, Infinity War and all the new comics that are going to keep coming out of Marvel based on characters he created. But I mean,
You know how awesome
you'll
it is-
be dead before we're done making Stan Lee projects. Stan Lee will always
Yeah,
be
no,
with
like
you.
think about how awesome it is like if you have a kid and you already probably plan on giving your kid like a Spider-Man comic book whenever
Yeah.
they're a little kid, and then maybe they're like, "Hey, I have feelings about this other person." You're like, "Well, here's some X-Men. We're gonna not let you feel marginalized. You're part of a community." And like Stanley, like fuck, made so much cool shit.
Yeah, no lie, I literally have, and I do not personally plan on having children, but I have a box of comics that are sectioned, no lie, by age appropriateness that I plan to give to children that I meet in life. Just be like, you could use one of these. And
Yeah.
none of them, all of them are probably have something to do with Stan Lee.
All right, that's everything we have for the episode this week. Thank you to all of our adventurers who tune in every week to listen to us. Until next week, true believers, for Tony, this is James.
For James, this is Tony.
And I'm Hector.
True believers,
Excelsior.
Okay, I finally found the stop button.
Hey, you
It
found it.
It takes a second to find the damn mouse.
I was reading a thing today when somebody asked Stanley which of his cameos was his favorite in all of the Marvel movies, and he said Age of Ultron.
Really?
Because he got to be a veteran.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah, because he was there at the party and the.
I mean, he was already.
Yeah, he was because he got to be a veteran. He got to wear his actual army hat that was like a commemorance of like fucking World War II.
Yeah,
And
because he was
wore-
in World War II.
Exactly, and he wore that hat, and he like got some liquor from Thor and had to be walked out because he drank some fucking like fucking Anaheim. God damn it, it's not Anaheim, California.
That's definitely not.
It's Anaheim, California.
Well, Anaheim, California's actual
Yes,
location.
Anaheim, California is a real place. Where's the place that Thor is from?
Oh, you're talking about Asgard?
Asgard.
It is not Asgard,
'Cause he
California.
drank some Asgardian liquor, and it was just like bam. Because it's still a fucking Nidavellir sort of like name, but it's like California instead of
Warhawk, you know, Chris Evans really had the best things to say about...
Yeah,
He's-
that one.
He
that
actually
one got
is
me.
Captain America.
Yeah.
Chris Evans
Sorry.
literally is Captain America.
Yeah.
Chris Evans literally the best of all of us.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, like I loved Chris Evans the most, and I identified the most with Ryan Reynolds. Just like I don't fucking thanks for everything. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
everything about doing this episode has been hard, and I'm actually very surprised at myself because I felt myself getting teary eyed a couple times because
Like for real, I almost
it's-
lost it.
In my mind, like the only thing I could imagine, like a better tweet aside from Chris Evans, is Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool saying "Fuck me, Grandpa died."
right.
Like that's it. Like
Yeah.
it's the
That
only
would've-
one.
yeah.
Yeah,
A tweet from
because-
actual Deadpool.
Yeah. No, I completely see where you're coming from. Like, just reading the news. Like, I didn't even want to believe it at first because we were talking about
He
it.
literally checked for a second source during the day. We were talking about this as it happened.
Yeah, so whenever I found out, I went to my Google News, which Google News is news.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
And
it
I
gives you
saw
like all,
that,
yeah.
and I went to message y'all, and y'all been talking about it for like 10 minutes because
Yeah.
you're like, we gotta check, and I was like, yeah, if I'm coming in here to say this, y'all, it's definitely true. Like,
Yeah.
You know, you're right. He's had an impact on so many generations, and
Yeah.
I think
if you're alive, literally, if you are
I mean,
alive,
he's 30.
influenced
He's
you.
30 years older than my mother when he passed away. I showed her the Iron Man movie, and ever since we've been watching every Marvel movie as they come out. Like, she understood who Iron Man was, and she really liked Robert Downey Jr. He's a handsome fellow. And, you know, and that got her into the whole thing. And it was because she knew who Iron Man was as a kid. I mean, and she is not into comics at all.
Yeah.
And but she got it.
And just think about the fact that there are so many upcoming generations of kids that will watch those movies with no context of their comics, but maybe later in life they will go back and find those old Stan Lee comics, those original things that he created.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so many iconic scenes that he
Right.
made. Like in Spider-Man Homecoming, there's a scene where Peter Parker's like buried underneath all this rubble.
Yeah,
And he goes
yeah.
to push it up. Like
Classic Spider-Man.
That is taken like straight from a Stan Lee story
Mm-hmm.
that was just about pushing yourself like past your limits.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most iconic scenes in all of Spider-Man. And the fact they recreated it in Homecoming was like, it warmed my heart watching
It was so
this.
beautiful, and it was so like artfully done with like him under the rubble, and then like his mask off into the puddle of water, and he's got like the reflection of his face, but also the mask. And
Yeah.
God, it was just beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
And we wouldn't have like, any of that if it wasn't for Stan Lee.
We wouldn't
and
have
it's so
Spider-Man.
weird to think about the fact that there's that moment. Like, literally, it's his wife
Yeah.
who said, if you're going to leave Marvel Comics, you write one comic for yourself. And so he wrote the first issue of the Fantastic Four, and it sold out so much.
At that point, he was actually, I think he was
was done?
already the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, because it changed from Timely to Marvel. And he was editor-in-chief, and he's like, fuck, I'm just not going anywhere.
This industry's dead. I gotta
Yeah,
get
because
out.
it was dead. 'Cause like Cowboys or Spacemen or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck. It
and
was
horror
it was-
comics had all been censored at that
Yeah, and
point.
Yeah.
it was dying off, and nothing was really working well. Like even Superman was like going through massive fucking like just pain, and if that story is true, and I really believe that it is, that it's more like just like, you know what, I can imagine
He
one of
made
us
the
saying that to
Fantastic
somebody's
Four.
like, hey, I'm not liking where I'm at in my job. I know I'm not doing so well, and you have any one of your friends or like a loved one's coming, and you're like, so fuck it, do the thing you want.
Yeah,
like, if you're gonna throw the ship's
Yeah,
sinking,
to have
fucking
the,
do whatever the
to have
hell
the
you
confidence
feel
in
like.
someone's talent to go like, you know what? Yeah, but you love what you do.
You're good at it, so fuck it.
just do one that you would appreciate instead of bitching about the industry all the time.
And I know we didn't really talk about this on the podcast.
You have a question?
Yeah, go ahead and give us your question. One of
Yeah.
the things we didn't talk about on the podcast is how much he loved his fans. He literally knew that he lived and died by his fans.
Well,
Yeah.
he made a lot of money off his fans too.
But he never
for sure.
but he never treated them like they were money bags.
And,
No,
and
he-
when
he
they
didn't.
when they were famous and they asked him for a favor, he was there. I mean, Kevin Smith, for Christ's sake, like making Mallrats, had a 20-minute cameo from Stan Lee.
True.
Because he loved comic books, and that was literally the whole thing. I was like, I'm doing a movie about a bunch of kids who hang out in malls, and there's a lot of dick jokes and there's some boobs, but
They're obsessed with comic books.
but mostly
and-
it's about kids who are my age who grew up, reading
in
your
terms
comic
of
books
fame,
and
at
loved
that
them.
point, Kevin Smith was a nobody.
Absolutely
well,
nobody. And
he'd gotten very, very good reception for Chase. Not sorry.
No,
for Clerks.
Clerks.
Because Clerks came
Think
out
about
the
how-
same year that Reservoir Dogs and
Right.
fuck, what was Robert Rodriguez's movie? Once Upon a Time. Not Once Upon a Time.
A Desperado.
Nope, before Desperado
Once
was
Upon a Time in Mexico.
El Mariachi.
El Mariachi. Yeah,
El
okay.
Mariachi, Reservoir Dogs, and
Clerks.
came out all in the same year.
Right. So some guy who made like one movie who you may or may not have liked,
In the
depending
entertainment
on
industry, who's done more than Stan Lee?
entertainment industry.
So that's kind of hard to say because Stan Lee wasn't.
Who has a bigger legacy?
Even though Stan Lee was, and it's not legacy. Who has done more than?
Right. So like that's your legacy. That's like, what do we have? Well, what products do we have now?
Well, aside from Walt Disney,
that you
'cause-
can like siphon into. Well, Walt Disney is not as big as Stan Lee, I would argue.
I would say Walt Disney is bigger.
So the problem is
Mickey
that
Mouse is 90 years old
hold
this
on.
year.
Well, okay, yeah. But
In the phrasing
That means
of that question,
Stanley was 5 when Mickey Mouse came out.
Right, but how much Mickey Mouse fan fiction have you written this year? How much have you read? How many Mickey Mouse stories have you absorbed in the last 10 years?
It's more the Disney empire
Well,
that
of course
was
the Disney
created.
empire.
You're right. But when I look at the question itself, the words that stand out in my head is the words entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so Disney definitely has the market cornered when it comes to film.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about the entertainment industry using those two specific words, Stan Lee crosses genres. It goes from comics to movies to television. You know, I mean,
Literally,
to
actual books as
Yeah,
well.
to
Like,
actual
no,
books.
no pictures in them.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
I mean,
Yeah.
who crosses all of that? Maybe Stephen King.
yeah.
Maybe Stephen King.
Maybe.
And like that'd be a
Well,
far second.
And Stephen King is I kind of agree with that. Stephen
Yeah,
King is
Stephen
a
King
second,
has works. He has
but
comics.
it's also
he has
Stephen King
movies.
is way younger,
books,
and
he's
his
way
his
younger.
influence is still growing on what is being created based on his universe.
Yeah.
But again, I still say past that it's Walt Disney because Walt Disney's basically God.
Well,
Stanley's
Walt Disney has been
Jesus,
dead
and
for a
Stephen
long
King
time.
is Jesus' son.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's there's that level of influence. It's hard to say who has a larger influence because that turns into who influenced who to create a thing to make influence somebody to create
Sure.
a thing, and you can always be like,
And
well,
you
the
could-
dude that invented the wheel influenced all of us to make everything ever.
Right. Or you
So-
could talk about, like, I don't know, Charlie Chaplin for like every acting role since Charlie Chaplin. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of arguments you could make. But Stanley,
I don't know what they said he died from.
I
aside
assume
from
old age.
that is actually still listed as a cause of death at this point, even
Right.
though there is always a legitimate version.
No,
reason
of
for
course,
death.
there's always a cause of death, but the
Old
thing
age is at this point
At a
your
certain-
body just stopped.
right at a certain age, your body is so
Yeah, he was having issues with pneumonia, so it's
Right.
it's complications with illness.
Right, your body is so sensitive to like the things that you have that you could get even just a mild cold and it will kill you.
Yeah, no, and it sucks.
It does.
And that's what happens.
Thank you for mourning with all of us on air, by the way. 'Cause
Yes.
It's been rough.
Yeah, it's like I gotta be at work at noon tomorrow, and that's
yeah.
not gonna be fun for me.
No,
Like,
we're
y'all
done.
have to y'all are gonna stop now, and I will just continue the mourning process for all of us.
Just go into your room and just cry a lot while I make us all tacos.
I'm going to go blare very loud metal music and
No, you're going to go blare the Spider-Man theme song from the original cartoon. Spider-Man.
no wait, sorry, I was doing X-Men.
You have 15 hours until you have to be at work and you're crying about that?
Yeah, because I'm gonna spend 10 of those drunk in my room.
15 hours.
Yeah,
You like the shirt?
I love it so much.
I know.
It's so good.
Target has like a shirt for like
Yeah,
like every last episode, every episode of the last season. All right, so all right, I'm gonna sign us off because
Yeah,
they're gonna go outside. Hector's leaving me.
I have to go eat and then go to bed because I have work tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go play Destiny too, and I have like 3 weeks left to do a lot of work in that game that I don't want to do.
Thank
I'm gonna
you
go
for
do that.
joining us, Twitch. We really appreciate it.
Okay, yeah. All right. That's awesome.
Oh fuck,
Is
I want
that
fun
from Target
buttons.
too?